Welcome back. This video, okay, like I'm going to put a bunch of disclaimers. I feel like my last video, I didn't give a lot of my thoughts. I just kind of tried to tell you the plot. In this video, I do want to do a little bit of an intro, how I'm feeling about this video. This book I felt like it was an out-of-body experience. I felt completely confused, but I also was like having a good time, and then reflecting on it, I was like, but why did I have a good time? It was like trash television. I think that there is a reason why Sarah J. Maas keeps referencing reality TV. All of these people would be excellent on reality TV. And then I actually just watched a video because somebody mentioned it in my comments. Peru's Project did a reading vlog about this, the sequel. She mentioned the amount of masculine energy there is in this book, and it's so true. So even though technically one could argue that Bryce is meant to be our main protagonist, she honestly really fades in this book. She's kind of out of the picture a lot. As you'll see, she does a lot of stuff off the page. I almost said off camera. We aren't there with her for a lot of it. She just kind of surprises us with stuff that she's cooked up while we were busy watching the boys do stuff. So I would argue that Bryce actually is not the main character in this book anymore. It's just really bro-y. I mean, to the point where tiny little male characters get names, and we never learn the river princess's name. Like Therion's fiance, she is just called the River Queen's daughter. There are probably a lot more valid criticisms about this book. I honestly didn't think too deeply about it. We have got new characters. We have got old characters. We have got wonderful new artwork by some more fantastic artists. Thank you guys so much. They will be linked down below. This book, much more than the previous book, jumps plot lines so much because every single character now really has their own thing going. And so we're going to go from like Therion to Ruhn to Therion to Ruhn to Therion to Ruhn to Cormac to Ruhn to Cormac. I feel like there might be a better way to organize this, but I'm honestly just going to tell it to you as she wrote it. So there's going to be like 20 seconds of Therion, and then 20 seconds of Hunt, and then 5 seconds of Bryce. Danica somehow, god damn it, is still in this book. She's been dead for like 5 freaking years, and she's still messing with people's lives. Let's dive the hell in. Okay, I haven't finished the script yet. I have only written the script out for parts prologue through part 2 because the end of part 2 is where I'm absolutely flabbergasted. Like I'm hanging on by a thread as far as understanding what's going on, and then I gave up. So I'm just gonna shut up and I'm gonna tell you about the book so that we can get to that damn last chapter that has ruined my life. We are starting out with a prologue. We get introduced in the prologue to Sophie. Yes, Sophie. Sophie works for the Ophion rebels. We're gonna break down this whole rebellion. There are so many factions. She's an interesting character because she is human, but she made the drop. So somehow humans can make the drop. It's very rare. So she has like some healing powers. She's not immortal, but she's like strong, stuff like that. She is at a death camp looking for her brother Emil, this is Michael, if you don't recognize him from House Moving Castle. All right, you see a theme? I'm trying to do this thing, making it easier for you to remember. So Sophie has been looking for Emil for like 3 years. They were orphaned because the Asteri came in and killed their parents and their grandparents. And the reason that she joined the rebels in the first place is so that she could get more information to help track down her brother. So through the rebels, she finds Emil and they get her into the death camp so that she can break him out. The problem is Emil is a good guy. He's like 12. I mean, he's like a kid. And he's like, hey sis, can you help me break out like 12 of these other kids? Sophie had a plan to just get one kid out of this death camp. And she's like, okay. We meet her on the night that she's trying to break out like 13 kids. Sophie obviously isn't going to get them out all by herself. So she has backup. She has contacts with these rebels. And again, she only really joined the rebels so that they could help her do this. And so the person that she works closest with is the leader of this legion within the rebels called Lightfall. And that is Pippa, represented by Peppa. Just to confuse you, Pippa is a human. She is not really Sophie's friend. She kind of sees Sophie as like a means to an end. She just wants to get more powerful in the rebel militia. So Sophie isn't like, Pippa's got my back, I trust her. She lets Pippa know pretty much as she's dropping her off at the death camp, like, hey, go in there, find your brother. She lets Pippa know that she has information that is like war ending, world destroying. She will be killed for knowing this. The world will be rocked by this information. And she didn't tell anyone. Don't you dare fuck me over and leave me in this death camp. Pippa, pick me up, because if not, your information dies with me. She's one smart cookie. So that night they get out. Somehow she manages to get all of the kids to like jump the fence or whatever. There is a van waiting for them with a certain Agent Silverbow. Yes, Howl is on this wall. Agent Silverbow, we'll just call him Silver. He seems nice. He's kind of like, wow, that is like 12 more people than I thought we were going to fit in this van. But okay, he gets the kids snacks. He drives safely but quickly. We do learn that they are like fully in a relationship. Like stuff has occurred between them. But Sophie is still like, I'm not going to tell Silver. Like, this is still information that's going to end with me. Silver looks in his rearview mirror and is like, oops. The hind is following us. Is it the hind? Are people going to be really mad at me for pronouncing Ruhn and the hind wrong? Maybe. If we remember from last time, Sandriel, now deceased Archangel Sandriel, she had her top group of angels as well. The hind, the hammer, the harpy, the hawk, and the hellhound. Why does she do that? Anyway, so we have the hind, who is like evil personified. She has a legion of dread wolves that are these like evil wolf things. So now they're racing the hind to get to the dock where they're going to get on a boat. And that boat is going to take them to another boat where Pippa is. And they're going to be taken to the rebel safety, right? They manage to get to the dock. The boat is waiting for them. But Sophie is like, I'm going to just go. Like, Silver, take the kids. Don't look back. Go. And I'm going to distract the hind and the dreadwolves. They chase her around this little seaside town, and she jumps into the fountain. And the dreadwolves are like, this is weird. And they follow her and they like creep into the fountain. They're like, haha, Sophie, we're going to get you. And then she lights the fuck up. I didn't mention this in the previous video because it is one of the most annoying parts of that book. But Danica and Bryce always tell each other, like, light it up. Like, instead of saying, like, have fun or, like, you go, girl, whatever, they're always like, light it up, light it the fuck up. I don't know. But that is precisely what Sophie does. She lights it up because you know what she is? She's not just a human. She is a Thunderbird. The Thunderbirds are some kind of supernatural being that the Asteri actually, like, hunted down and killed. So they aren't supposed to exist anymore, but somehow Sophie is a Thunderbird. So she can like control electricity basically. And so she's standing in the fountain and she just goes like, zap. She electrocutes all the wolves. The hind is standing there like, that wasn't very nice. And this power is the reason why the rebels even agreed to help her. They think that they can use her power against the Asteri. It's a really rare and crazy power. And they're really hoping that Emil has the power too, because Sophie has told Pippa, Emil's powers are bigger than mine. So that's why, especially why Pippa was like, hey, we're going to get 2 Thunderbirds. So yeah, we're going to help you out. Even though she electrocuted a lot of the wolves, the hind has backup. She ends up shooting Silver with this like special bullet thing. So he's stuck on the boat and he can't use his powers because the bullet stopped him from using his powers. So he can't help Sophie. The boat is pulling away and Sophie is like, no, just go without me. Like, get Emil to safety. The hind tries to get the information from Sophie. Sophie doesn't budge. The hind puts her in these weird shackles and throws her in the ocean, just to the bottom of the sea. Meanwhile, on the boat, everybody's pulling away. Pippa is looking through her binoculars, sees this all going down. She's kind of like, ooh, I think Sophie just died, but I think Emil's on the boat, so we're all good. Like, at least we've got Emil, this super powerful Thunderbird, right? Sophie, man, that's sad, but she probably told Emil the information, so like, what did we really lose? Nothing. The boat is coming closer to the rebel boat where they're going to make the pass off. And there are submarines. Evil Asteri Omega boat submarines are following this boat. And there's no way. I mean, this is like a little dinghy. Like, there's no way that this boat is going to survive until suddenly electricity just starts flowing through the ocean. And one by one, the submarines get just taken down. Pippa is like, holy shit, Emil is really powerful. Like, that's fantastic. Pippa's ecstatic. Great news for the rebels. Sophie, meanwhile, is sitting at the bottom of the ocean. So we're starting this book off on a really happy note. That is our prologue. We've got a whole new group of people, and we still don't have a map of the world. So I don't know where this is taking place, but it's not in Crescent City. Prologue done. Welcome to Part 1, The Chasm. Part 1. Part 1 starts at the ballet. We are here to see Juniper dancing. Bryce and her parents are there, and soon to be joined by Hunt. Ember is making these weird comments about, like, your relationship is weird. You're together but not together. And we're like, what? I thought that they were gonna, like, embark on this true love story, right? Sarah J. Maas, what are you doing? They came to an agreement. Actually, it was really Bryce's doing, that they want to wait to have any physical contact until the winter solstice. And this is like spring that they decide this. They want to get to know each other without, like, now that all of the craziness of Mika and all this stuff is over. So they're just gonna, like, not touch each other. And they're, like, counting down the hours. How much more time do they have? They've got 4 more months and 3 days. I think the issue here is, in this book, Sarah J. Maas is just so present. Like, I can feel her making these choices. And so I, like, can't even get into the book because I'm just like, Sarah, help me. We also learned that Bryce is quite famous now because obviously she saved the city. The Asteri have kept it secret that she killed Mika, but they couldn't keep it a secret when so many people saw her running around saving people and putting them in bomb shelters. You know, like, she's very famous now, and people know that she is the Fae Princess. So while they're at the ballet, they're in, like, the box seats because Juniper's a VIP, and everybody's, like, turning around looking, trying to take pictures and stuff. So the Asteri once again have just, like, asked them to lay low, and that is what they're trying to do. After the ballet, they go to Ruhn's house. Ruhn is still living in his little frat boy house with all of his buddies, and they're just having, like, a house party, whatever. Everything's going good. Fury and Juniper are there. They are, like, very openly a couple now. We get a lot of pages, just like many pages of Hunt yearning for Bryce and Bryce yearning for Hunt. I really liked their relationship in the first book because I felt like they were really equals and there was a lot of, like, teasing and banter. And now in this book, they've just kind of faded. I don't know, Hunt just kind of, like, worships her. And there isn't, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, their chemistry that I loved in the first book is completely lost. And it turns out, like, one of the reasons why they wanted to wait is because she is feeling quite guilty about, even though she saved a lot of people, like, a lot of people did die. According to Hunt, she just feels really, like, guilty of being happy, like, any amount of happiness at this time while the city is still trying to rebuild. She's just like, I don't think I deserve that, so we can't have sex. So there's that. At the party, Hunt gets a phone call, I believe from Isaiah, that they have selected the new archangel to take Mika's place. And it's suspicious. It is Celestina, who was an archangel for, like, a very small town. And by all accounts, she is so fucking nice. Everyone loves her. She's wonderful to work with. She's really lenient. She's just. She's fair. She's funny. She's beautiful. She's nice. She's unreal. Hunt doesn't trust it. Hunt is like, there's no way. Too good to be true. There's no way that there is a nice archangel and the Asteri are bringing her to Crescent City. Like, this small town lady coming to, like, run one of the biggest cities on earth. Fishy. So he's kind of feeling like, about it, but he's kind of like, you know what, we're going to deal with that on Monday. We're at a party. Ruhn is having some relations with a fellow party goer. Flynn busts into the room and he's like, sorry to interrupt. Get your sword. There's something weird coming in on the security system. Ruhn and Bryce walk to the front door. The front door turns into a portal. So they're like, oh my God, page 30? We're going to have to fight another demon. They've got their swords ready. They're expecting a demon. But what walks through, according to Ruhn, is even worse. Cormac. They're cousins. Cousin. Can't stress this enough. Cousin. They hate each other. We'll find out why later. Why is he here? He is here to meet his fiance. Who is his fiance? Remember when the Autumn King just sprung hypaxia on Ruhn? He is springing Cormac on Bryce. I also want to mention, I have just learned that apparently in the audiobook, Cormac has a Scottish accent. And if I had known that from the get-go, I feel like I would have liked him more. But yeah, Cormac just kind of comes in and he's like, I'm just here to tell you that we're engaged and I'm going to be in the city. Behave, girl. I don't know. He's just like this alpha hole, if you will. The whole party is like, this is super awkward because he's standing right next to Hunt telling him that by the way, your girlfriend is my fiance now. We learn that Ruhn doesn't like Cormac because Cormac has some kind of power that made him think that he could be the chosen one that Ruhn is. So he's really obsessed with star power, and they ended up kind of fighting over the star sword, and Cormac almost killed Flynn or something. Doesn't seem like a rad dude. But Bryce is already 10 steps ahead, and she's like, you know what? I bet the Autumn King is just doing this to make me angry so that I do something weird, or that Hunt does something weird, right? That Hunt gets angry and blows shit up or attacks him, whatever. Because remember, if they step out of line, the Asteri have a right to kill them, pretty much. They've said so. So she's like, I bet the Autumn King is just poking at us to give the Asteri the go-ahead. So she's like, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm going to go home and not hook up with my boyfriend. I'm not going to blast you into outer space like I totally could. We'll deal with this again on Monday. We're dealing with everything on Monday. It's the weekend. So they go home in order to probably watch trashy television when they find Ethan on her floor bleeding. But more importantly than him bleeding, he is bleeding on her pale hardwood floors. And this is a recurring theme, so I swear to God it's important. Bryce is a pale minimalist kind of aesthetic girl. Honestly, one of the main characters of this book is her damn white couch that she will not give up. She's obsessed with keeping her house clean, but she has all of these men dragging bodily fluids into her house. And Ethan especially tears up her fucking house. So we walk in and she half of her brain is oh my God, Ethan, you're hurt. And the other half is literally how dare you bleed on my floors? We're gonna leave Ethan on the floor for a second to focus on Therion. So this is where we start getting, everybody gets 5 minutes of screen time, and then we're gonna switch plot points. We go underwater to Therion. Remember how I introduced him as a very attractive big flirt? Apparently everyone finds him attractive. He's in trouble because he was sunbathing or something, and some tabloids took pictures of him and posted oh my God, isn't he so hot? And people on social media were I'm so in love with our head of intelligence. Whatever happened, the daughter of the River Queen, again, we never learn, at least from what I remember, we don't learn her name. The daughter of the River Queen is really bummed out that people are looking at her fiance, because remember, they're engaged. And so the River Queen calls him in to yell at him, and as punishment she sent him to investigate something. What are they investigating? The River Queen heard from the water. She gets all of her rumors from the sea currents. She heard that there might have been a thunderbird in the ocean, and she's like, why don't you go check that out, where she was supposed to be found? We are just as confused as Therion about why the River Queen would want Sophie, but he goes. They eventually find where she was thrown in the water, and they get down there and they find her shackles, but her shackles were unlocked. They were like, it's probable that her body floated away, or like it's been so long that her body disintegrated or whatever, but the shackles unlocking themselves, something's fishy, something's fishy. Therion reports this back to the River Queen, and she is like, find her, find Emil, bring them to me. Flashback to Ethan. Ethan is now on the coffee table because Bryce refuses to let him lay on her white couch. This is like a modern fantasy. Remember, there are like tabloids, gossip sites, whatever. Sabine had been talking about Bryce, like the whole attack on Crescent City day where Bryce really saved the world. Sabine is like spewing trash, like what typical tabloid gossip stuff. One of the reporters came to Ethan and he basically was like, actually, Bryce did a really wonderful thing. Anybody who's saying differently is kind of shitty. And Sabine heard about this and was like, that is not wolfy behavior. You are kicked out of the pack. So Amelie and everybody like beat him up, which is why he's bleeding, and then kick him out of the pack. He's not allowed to be a wolf anymore. And so Amelie's little sister Perry, who we never really see, but she exists and she has a name, which is great for her. Perry was nice enough to take Ethan's bloody body and like bring him to Bryce's apartment. It's really late at night at this point, and Bryce is like, well, we're not going to tell Ethan to leave. He needs to heal, so he's gonna stay, but nobody's gonna fucking sleep on my white couch. So they somehow arrange the beds that Bryce and Ethan share a bed. Because Bryce and Hunt can't share a bed, or else they'll break this self-made bargain about not having any physical contact. We meet up with Ruhn, who is doing his best to defend Bryce's right to choose who she wants to marry. This is modern times. Women's rights. All right, feminist Ruhn. Cormac is there, acting all smooth. But what he's really saying is like, get over it, man. I'm going to marry my cousin. And I just don't like that. Cormac also randomly starts going off on hypaxia. And this is where we get dropped some info that's important. People don't like hypaxia because remember when I said that she was kind of like studying far away? Hypaxia was kind of sent into the woods to learn the witch stuff. While she was there, most of her tutors were actually necromancers, which is kind of taboo even in like witch culture, dealing with the dead. So there's sort of this movement within the witches to not recognize Hypaxia as their queen. But who else could be queen? I don't understand. Cormac reminds us of something that we, the reader, didn't know, that Hypaxia's mother actually had another daughter with another father. So Hypaxia has a half-sister. Who is that half-sister that didn't get any witchy powers? Boop. The hind, Lydia. All right, her name's Lydia. And the witches are kind of like, she might not have any witchy powers, but at least she doesn't deal with dead people. She just kills people. They don't seem, I don't know. So Cormac is sort of like talking shit about his fiance that doesn't want to marry him. I didn't mention this in the last video because it was so much was already going on, and so much is going on now, but you need to know this now. At the summit, when Ruhn saw Hypaxia for the first time as Hypaxia, when he like realized that she was the Medi-Witch, he was excited because man, they vibed. So he goes up to Hypaxia and is like, hello, I'm your fiance. Nice to meet you. Not like that. But Hypaxia was basically like, I'm not interested. She basically was like letting him down really politely. They haven't broken the engagement because like, I don't know if they can. He really respects her. So like, he's still holding on to hope, or like at least just, this plot just doesn't make sense. But anyway, yeah, they're like engaged, but it's very clear that like, this isn't gonna happen. And Cormac is like, at least with my marriage, it's gonna work out and we're gonna strengthen the Fae because of her power plus my power. We're gonna have really powerful babies, which is exactly what the Autumn King wants. The whole point of this little scene is just to tell us that the Hind is her sister, and it goes on for forever. Bryce is now at work. She is working at the Fae archives because she's the Fae princess, and so she basically asked politely and they let her work there. She doesn't work for Jessica anymore because Jessica has like moved the library somewhere and is MIA, but she always answers the phone. Whenever we're at a point in the plot where like something impossible needs to happen, she just calls Jessica and Jessica like pulls a string. So Jessica is around in spirit. Who is not? Lahaba. We get a lot of Bryce and also lovingly a lot of Ruhn. For the amount of time that Hunt spent with Lahaba, he doesn't mourn her that much, but Ruhn spent significantly less time with her, but he like really loves Lahaba and it's really sweet. And so we get a lot of like missing Lahaba moments, and you guys know that she was like my favorite character in the end for the first book, so I appreciated that she gets her time. At the Fae Archives, Cormac comes in literally just to piss Bryce off. Like there are so many conversations in this book that have no reason to be there except to like drop one piece of information. Like just combine a couple scenes, you know? Like this conversation could have absolutely happened when Cormac was talking to the Autumn King. I'm going to try to not do this throughout the whole plot, but there's like so many moments that could have been succinct into one. But anyway, Cormac comes to the Fae Archives to talk to Bryce to like rattle her. He lets her know that he went to their oracle, not the oracle that hates Bryce, but their version of the oracle. When he talked to the oracle, this is what he got. I was destined to unite with a princess who possessed a star in her heart. Our mingling would bring great prosperity to our people. And star in her heart, by the way, ever since she got her star power, she has like this little piece of her chest that glows depending on who she gets close to. Like sometimes when she's close to Cormac, sometimes when she's close to Hunt, her star will like, it's uncontrollable. So there's that. And then he goes away. She's basically like, screw you, man. And he's just kind of like, you will be a lady. He reminds me a lot of the fiance in Titanic, but allegedly with a Scottish accent, so maybe it's more tolerable. I don't know. Now we're back at Angel headquarters and we're with Hunt, who is back at work, and he is here to meet the new Archangel, his new boss, Celestina. And so remember, he was stamped as a free person, so he is not obligated to work for Celestina, but like there aren't that many job options for like a former assassin, very powerful angel. We meet Celestina with Isaiah and Naomi, the other angel. She is so nice. She is like chill, seems to really respect their opinions, and she apologizes to Hunt about all the things that Mika did, like even though she wasn't involved. Too good to be true. And it is. So the Asteri replaced Mika, right, with Celestina, but what happened to Sandriel? Remember Sandriel had that like top group, remember all the H names. She basically breaks up Sandriel's little group, sends a couple of them one way, sends a couple of them our way. So now who are Hunt's new coworkers? The Hellhound, aka Baxian, and the Hammer, aka Pollux. And Pollux is, let me quote Hunt for a second, the most brutal, sadistic asshole to have ever walked Midgard soil. Motherfucker number one. Hunt's words. The Hammer is a piece of shit. If we get some kind of fucking backstory about Pollux to explain why he's so evil, I don't even want to hear it. Pollux, fun fact, is dating the Hind. And remember, Hunt worked with them for many years, so he knows these people, has very horrible memories. They did horrible things together, but Hunt seems to remember that all the other ones, like the Hind, Baxian, Pollux, they like enjoyed their work. So he's like, I do not want to work with these psychopaths. What does he do the second that he sees Pollux? Like, no second of hesitation, pounces on him, takes him to the ground, beats him up. Isaiah throws Hunt in a cell for timeout. Bryce has to come pick him up as if she is his mother, picking up a kid from school who was just in a fight. She scolds him as if she is a mother picking up a kid from a fight. Pollux shows up and like says really just disgusting, slut-shamey, horrible things to Bryce. And then Celestina walks in and is like, okay, everybody's free to go. Timeout is over. don't do it again. Baxian also says something. Baxian is like lurking in the corner, and he happens to just like walk by Bryce, and he's just like, thank God somebody finally put a bullet in Mika's head. Again, so many scenes where we just get one tiny piece of exposition and the rest is just there for vibes. I think that's the important information that we're supposed to get is Baxian said something maybe pro Bryce. We're back with Therion because we can't stick with one character for too long. We're back with Therion and he is above water. And we get told this quite a lot actually, that Therion seems to not love being a mermaid. He really enjoys being outside of the water. And so he can be outside for like, I think it's a day, and then you have to get fully submerged or else you get stuck. I don't know. Anyway, he's outside of the water mainly because he's working on computers and computers need to stay dry. By request of the River Queen, again, remember, he's looking into Sophie and Emile is his project. Therion is going through Sophie's email. How did he get access to it? Nobody knows. And he finds some emails from like 3 years ago that seem really strange. And they're to someone called like Banshee Fan 69. They're talking about things called Dusk's Truth and Project Thur. And they say things like, have you gotten inside yet? I want to know the full story. When you find him, lay low where the weary souls find relief from their suffering in Lunathion. He uses Declan's program because Declan has a program for everything because Declan is the best. He runs a program that Declan made to find out who Banshee Fan is. This girl was so busy. We learn that Danica and Sophie knew each other and were emailing together about some clandestine project. Before he can dive too deeply into this, though, he gets a phone call from one of his police people that they found this boat in a marsh nearby Crescent City. He goes there to investigate, finds a life jacket with the name of the boat that carried Emile, and like you see kind of like not footprints but like a track leading through the marsh towards Crescent City. And so Therion is like, bingo. I think he's trying to find Sophie because remember that email from Danica said like lay low and go to where the weary souls are in Lunathion. But I've got to find him quick because the Asteri are looking for him. Pippa is looking for him. There are a ton of things that would eat a little boy living in the marsh. So like if he's even still alive, you know. Mama Bryce takes her juvenile delinquent son Hunt out for ice cream after that little debacle. My favorite flavors. They are eating pistachio and coffee. They may have an incredibly boring storyline, but I like their taste in ice cream. They go home and Therion is there. Everybody seems to have a key to her apartment now. She just really doesn't care. Therion is there. She is like, get the fuck off of my white couch. And Therion tells him everything that they just learned because he's like, if Danica is involved, gotta get Bryce involved. Bryce is like, of course I didn't know anything about this. Danica never told me anything. And she's really concerned that like none of these outcomes seem good for Emile. Like if Therion finds him, he's gonna give him to the River Queen, which like Bryce doesn't like that. Bryce doesn't want him going to the rebels. Bryce doesn't want him going to the Asteri. This is a kid. This is a kid who is lost by himself, doesn't have his sister. Yes, I want to help. I want to help find him, but I don't want to fucking give him to any of you guys. Like, you guys are trash. And so Hunt is having like a miniature panic attack because basically what Therion is asking them to do is to get involved with a plot that includes the rebels. And Hunt is just like, I just got free. I just got separated from this whole twisted plot. I really don't want to go into it. I just want to wait until winter solstice so that I can have sex with my girlfriend and just live a normal life. So after that, the whole crew comes over. Ruhn is over. Ruhn is sort of like, hey, why doesn't Ethan live in the bro house with the rest of the bros? Because if Sabine finds out that he's here, you're like harboring a criminal and she would love to come after you. But if Ethan is just staying with like my dudes at my little frat house, she probably won't get super pissed. So he like floats that by. They talk about like, so who's sleeping where? And Hunt is like, I'm sleeping with Bryce. I don't want to sleep in my big boy bed. I want to share. So Ethan gets the guest room. They sleep together in the same bed, and wouldn't you know it, nothing happens. They have self-control. The next morning, Bryce gets a call from Ember. And Ember is like, I'm getting a bunch of phone calls congratulating me, asking me when the wedding is. So Ember has heard through the grapevine about the engagement of Cormac and Bryce, and she is absolutely pissed. Remember, she hates the Fae. So she is like screaming at Bryce, like, why aren't you doing anything? Like, figure this stuff out. She doesn't know that Bryce killed an archangel. Like, there is just so much that Ember doesn't know, and she's yelling at Bryce about like, why aren't you being more proactive? And Bryce is like, goddamn mom, like, you have no idea what I've been through. Hunt finds out that Cormac visited Bryce. Remember when they had that like momentary visit, and Bryce just like didn't tell him because like other shit is going on, and like nothing happened, so it wasn't a big deal. Hunt gets mad that Bryce didn't tell him about Cormac coming around, and Bryce is like, ugh, you're acting like an alpha hole. And so she's just like really on edge with everybody. Within the next page, Hunt apologizes. Listen, I'm also on edge because this whole thing with Therion, I really don't want us to get involved with the rebels. Totally understand that you want to protect this boy, but like, please, can we just think about it? And so they kind of end on good terms, as they always do. They never ever hold grudges. Like, their arguments never last for like more than a page and a half. We have another conversation that happens only so we can learn one itty bitty piece of information. Bryce calls up Fury because Fury is like some kind of assassin spy person. So her network is like bigger than everybody else's. If they're trying to find this person, she's like, Fury would know. Bryce downloads all of the intel to Fury. It's brought up pretty randomly that Fury is like, did Danica ever tell you that she was a bloodhound? And Bryce is like, oh, it's kind of like a power that some people have. It's not super rare, but it's pretty rare. If she gets close enough to you and like gets a good whiff of your blood, she can kind of read your ancestry and like your power. Oh, they smell like they would be able to produce lightning, for example. And this is where we get some info about Fury that like is just there for mystery. Fury said, I only know about it because she confronted me when we first met. She scented me and wanted to understand. Fury's eyes darkened. We sorted our shit out, but Danica knew something dangerous about me, and I knew something dangerous about her. It was as much as Fury had ever said about being ... whatever she was. Hunt is at work, training his little angels, and Baxian comes over for a chat. And remember, Hunt does not like this dude, but Baxian comes over and is sort of like, listen, dude, like, we were all in the same position here. I had to listen to Sandriel. Like, you did bad stuff too. I was just better at pretending that I liked doing it. Like, you got beat up and abused because you were acting so mopey about doing evil things. So maybe I was just doing some self-preservation and like looking like I enjoyed the work that Sandriel gave me. And Hunt is just like, I don't believe you. Please leave me alone. And Baxian says, no can do. Celestina just made us partners. And then Naomi, who is never around, but Naomi has been partnered with Pollux. Celestina wants him to, quote, show him the ropes, help him settle into the city. And he's like, this really sucks. But he knows that Baxian knows the Hind. At least I can like try to ask him, like get some information about the Hind, which would give us some information about Sophie and Emil, right? So he's like, silver linings. Then we're back at Bryce's place. We're just jumping everywhere, guys. I'm so sorry. I hope that you've buckled up. Therion and Ethan are at Bryce's place, just broing it up. Therion is kind of asking Ethan for information, kind of using Ethan because Ethan is just not naive, but like he's not a police officer. So when he's just like sitting on the couch with his guy friends and they're asking him questions, he's not thinking that this is an interrogation. So Therion is kind of using him in that sense where he's asking for information about Danica, and Ethan tells him some stuff, which is mainly that in college, Danica was a history major. And he remembered that she was working on a couple projects that like were gonna be big, but she dropped them. And that's all he knows. Then Bryce and Ruhn come in, and Bryce looks so terrified and angry, and like Ruhn can sense it. He like immediately goes into attack mode. What is she scared of? Let me tell you what Ethan says. Your cat's a sweetheart, by the way, Ethan went on, not taking his focus from the TV as he stroked the white cat curled on his lap. Bryce slowly shut the door behind her. The wolf ran his fingers through the luxurious coat, earning a deep purr in response. Adis is back. Adis is here for a history lesson. So first of all, he starts yelling at Bryce like,
why aren't you using your powers? Why aren't you accessing all of your powers? You think you can just do light shows?
He also explains that the light that Bryce has is from Queen Thea, and the light that Ruhn has is from Prince Peleus. Prince Peleus, we remember him from the creator of the horn. So Adis is like, listen, I was there when they were around. Like, I know these people. I can clearly see that your light is Prince Peleus and your light is Queen Thea. He tells us more about them. Queen Thea had some daughters. The eldest daughter's name was Helena. Helena married Prince Peleus, which is how he became Prince Peleus. Peleus was originally like a general, a high-ranked official in the military. Adis tells us that even though the history books tell a different story, the real story is that Peleus actually forced Helena to marry him so that he could become prince. And then Prince Peleus, once he was prince, he killed Queen Thea so that then he could become king. Adis was there, and Adis saw this going down, and he actually tried to help Queen Thea because he's like, this Peleus man's a bad news. So this is really during the first war where they're fighting the princes of hell. Adis was like, I was outnumbered, I was a little bit too late, so I called on the Star Eater. Remember Apollyon? And remember how they fought and like broke the horn, that whole battle? Yeah, the princes obviously were not successful. They got blasted back to hell. The Asteri and all this bullshit, they're all still in power. Like, whatever they were trying to achieve didn't work. And so Adis is like,
so Bryce, when are you going to use your powers and end this war?
Ethan cuts in and reminds Adis that hell are our enemies, aren't they?
Who wrote the history?
The Asteri, Therion said darkly. Adis turned approving eyes on him.
You've heard the truth in some form, I take it.
Adis leapt off the counter, trotting to the coffee table again.
The Asteri fed their lies to your ancestors, made the scholars and philosophers write down their version of events under penalty of death, erased Thea from the record. That library your former employer possesses,
he said, turning to Bryce,
is what remains of the truth, of the world before the Asteri and the few brave souls who tried to voice that truth afterward. What was this world before the Asteri?
Therion said, ancient humans and their gods dwelled here. I've heard the ruins of their civilization are deep beneath the sea. Adis doesn't give us any answers, as always, but he's very clear that Bryce needs to hone her powers, and when she is ready, hell is waiting. Adis tells her the armies of hell are at your beck and call. Adis also tells her that she should be careful about where she holds her public conversations because he was totally spying on her and Fury, so he knows all the shit about the rebels too. Bryce growled, I don't even know any Ophian rebels. Adis stretched out his front paws, back arching.
That's not true. There's one right behind you.
Bryce whirled, hunt with her, lightning poised to strike. Cormac Donnell stood in the doorway, shadows fading from his shoulders.
Hello, Agent Silverbow.
Adis crooned, then vanished. Oh yeah, Cormac is Agent Silverbow, aka Sophie's lover, aka not a super bad guy. He gives children snacks while he's saving them from the death camp. What a twist. So what the hell, Cormac? Explain. Cormac says that, yes, it is true. Okay, I'm Agent Silverbow. I work with the rebels. I'm very close to Sophie. And he is like, I need to find Emil. You guys have no idea, but Pippa is a nut. We knew that she was like really ambitious, but it turns out that she's also super radical, and to the point where she has no issues killing like women and children, like completely innocent people not related to the war at all. So yeah, she has just like massacred villages filled with children. I need to find Emil because Emil ran away because he could tell Pippa was nuts. Emil ran away. I need to find him because that was my like one promise to Sophie. He also lets everybody know about Sophie's information that she didn't share with him, but Cormac is like, Sophie knew something and that's why the Hind killed her. Therion comes in and tells him, well, actually, I found where her body was dumped. It looks like she got out. So like, don't give up hope, man. She might still be alive. And Cormac, this is when we really start to like empathize with him and see that his whole persona was kind of a little bit of an act. He also says that that's the reason why he even agreed to the engagement with Bryce, is because he needed an excuse to be in Crescent City so that he could look for Emil. So he's like, sorry, Bryce, I'm kind of using you, but like, I need a reason to be here. And then he just starts asking for favors. He's like, Ruhn, I want to talk to you afterwards. I have a request and I need your little mind speaking powers. Because I don't remember if I told you this in the first book. Ruhn can mind speak. So yeah, Cormac also confirms what Therion knows, and is that Sophie and Danica were in conversation. He doesn't know what it's about, but he's like, I don't think that Danica was working for the rebels. I think that she, quote, had her own agenda. And so whatever Sophie found out, Sophie was gonna try and tell Danica, but Sophie got this information after Danica died, so she couldn't pass it along. Now that we have this all out in the open, Bryce has decided to broker a deal. This is what she wants. Number one, she's going to pretend to go along with the engagement just so the Autumn King gets off her back. He can't possibly like do something else because he's already done this horrible thing to her, right? Number two, Cormac is going to teach Bryce about magic, because remember, he's like obsessed with the whole star power thing, so he's studied it. He has a lot of powers that Ruhn doesn't have and that she doesn't know how to use. So tutor me in magic. Number three, they're all going to work on finding Emil. And number four, the marriage thing, the engagement thing ends when she says so. She's like, if I wake up one day and I say deal's done, deal's done. Bryce has to go to work, so she leaves. Hunt follows her out, and he is still like, I really don't want to be a part of this. I don't trust Cormac. I don't trust the rebels. I thought that we were just going to be a chill couple that is not having sex. And I really liked that. And Bryce all of a sudden is like, I don't want to wait. I want to break up our deal. So they start having a very steamy scene in an alley on the way to work when suddenly Hunt is like, oh, we have to stop. First of all, like, they should not be having sex in a public place, in an alley, okay? Maybe don't. But also, if someone were to see them, people would know, like, people know that she's engaged. So if they see her with Hunt, there's going to be tabloids, all this stuff. So he's like, we need to keep up this charade. Like, we can only be intimate in private, which I thought was like natural, but like even like holding hands or something, we have to keep our distance. I'm still just like your friend, ex-boyfriend, bodyguard guy. This book is exhausting. Therion and Ethan are still at the house. Bromance of the century. Therion decides it's only fair to tell Ethan about Mika, because he's really the only person that doesn't know that Bryce killed Mika, because everybody else was really at the summit. So Therion tells Ethan, like, by the way, Mika is the one who killed Danica. Bryce is the one that killed Mika. Hunt is the one that killed Sandriel. Basically tells him the whole plot of the last book. And Ethan is like, whoa, man, that's a lot of information. I gotta blow off some steam. Therion leaves, and Ethan is like, I can't go for a run because I'm injured and hiding. So he like starts snooping around the house, and he finds a sword. I think it's Danica's sword, whatever. He finds a sword. So he starts running around the house, like playing warrior by himself. And he jumps on the coffee table, like, having fun. Bryce comes in because she forgot her work ID, and she sees him, shocked. And then the coffee table shatters. This poor girl, she is so protective of her damn apartment, and it is just being ripped to shreds by these dumb boys. So the coffee table breaks. She is distraught because she loves that coffee table. Danica bought it. But blessing in disguise, within the coffee table, hidden in there somehow, are all of Danica's old college papers. And remember how Ethan said that Danica was a history major and was studying something, and then she kind of dropped it? They found it. And there's research on first light and weapons. And then it also says Dusk's Truth, which is the title of one of the emails that her and Sophie were working on. Dusk's Truth and Project Thur. Remember? So jackpot, way to go, Ethan. You owe Bryce a coffee table, but you done good. We have a lead. We have physical paper. All right, let's get reading. So I have already forgotten the plot of this book, by the way. So I am heavily relying on my notes, and my notes are so exhausting to read because it's literally like 2 sentences per each scene. There are so many scenes. Every scene is like 1 page. So right now, where are we? We're with Cormac and Ruhn. Remember that Cormac was like, hey, Ruhn, stick around. I have a question to ask you. Cormac is like, I want to use your mind-speaking powers because Sophie had a contact, one of our best agents within the rebellion, kind of like, I guess, like a double agent. I don't know. And they spoke using this like crystal communication thing that like connected their brains. I want you to do it. I don't know. Like, it seemed like Sophie didn't know how to mind speak. So I don't know why they couldn't just give another person the crystal. What? It doesn't matter. He asked Ruhn to do it, and Ruhn is like, this would be me joining the rebellion, and I don't really want to join the rebellion. And then Cormac is like, but this intel saves children, Ruhn. And so Ruhn is like, okay, I'll do it. Ruhn is going to talk to Agent Daybright, who gives incredibly important intel that has saved many, many children. Okay, so Ruhn is in. Back at Angel headquarters, Hunt is giving Baxian a tour of Angel headquarters, including the common room, where we learn a very important detail, that Baxian doesn't know what video games are. Oh my God. So Hunt is kind of like, oh my God, he doesn't know what video games are? And we start to feel a little empathy for Baxian. I'm not kidding. And so Hunt kind of softens, and he's like, maybe I'll show you how to play sometime. End scene. End goddamn scene. If you came here for me to read you steamy SJM scenes, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, but we finally get a steamy scene. Do they go all the way? No, they do not, because remember that Ethan is still living in the house. So Ethan screams from his bedroom, please have sex a little louder. I didn't hear everything the first time. And so they're like, we will get a hotel later. They fall asleep, and Hunt wakes up in what is called a pocket realm. He didn't get fully dragged to hell, but who is there but the Prince of the Pit, the Star Eater, Apollyon, the worst prince of hell. And he's like,
what's up, Orion?
And he's like, call me Hunt. Hunt and him have a little chat where Apollyon, similar to Adis talking to Bryce, Apollyon is like,
Hunt, my dude, why aren't you using your powers?
And he's like, what do you mean? I use my lightning all the time. And Apollyon is like,
you can do so much more. You know you can. And if you and Bryce team up, your powers are going to be baller. Like, your powers are going to be amazing, and I really need you to do it. You don't know a fraction of what you might be. You and the Starborn girl, your powers are more similar than you realize. Conduits, both of you. You have no idea how valuable you and the others like you are.
And then he wakes up. We get our first scene with Ruhn and Daybright, and honestly, I thought these scenes were like, in the book, I remember enjoying Ruhn's journey the most. He turns on the crystal without any prep, ends up getting in communication with Daybright. They're in like this bridge. They call it a mind bridge. So it's just like this dark kind of place, and this agent shows up. It's a female body, engulfed in flame, so he like can't see her. The flame is hiding her.
Welcome to Love is Blind.
He luckily shows up as just like Starlight, I guess, because he realizes as he's introducing himself, first of all, he didn't think to hide his face. It was just by luck that his face didn't show up. And second of all, he didn't come up with a name. He was about to be like, hello, I am Ruhn. Finally, Daybright is like, why don't I just call you Night? We'll be night and day. It'll be easy to remember.
Hello.
Nice to hear from you. Can't say see ya.
They end up like flirting, having this funny little banter because Daybright is like, you are such a noob. Oh my God. There's no way that you could be a double agent because you are clearly so stupid. So I think the first meeting goes well. We're back at Angel headquarters now with Baxian, who still doesn't know how to play video games. Celestina has called a meeting because there was a big issue. Pollux and Baxian got in a fist fight at a bar. Turns out Pollux was not taking no for an answer from a woman who said no. Baxian attacked him, ripped him off of the woman, and, they got in this huge fist fight. So what do we learn from that? Number one, Baxian and Pollux are not the ride or die people that Hunt and we thought that they were. We also learned that Baxian might be a good guy if he stopped Pollux from doing that. And above that, we also learn that Celestina has a new job. So the Asteri can tell the archangels to do anything. So because they made such a public hoo-ha in order to distract the public and the media from this, the Asteri are making Celestina mate with another archangel. This is like a rare thing, but it happens. So her and her old friend Ephraim, who's apparently, quote, like a good dude, he's like an okay friend, right? Celestina and Ephraim are going to have to do the deed and make an archangel baby. Because of this, they are going to have a mating ceremony party where Ephraim comes to Crescent City on the autumnal equinox. Celestina doesn't seem happy about this. Like, not only that she doesn't have a say in it, but also just like something seems really off. And everybody else is mad because when Ephraim comes, Ephraim is going to bring his triari, his top angels. Who is in his top angel group now? The Hind and the Harpy, who I just didn't put on the wall because there's just too many goddamn people. But mainly the Hind. Pollux is like, hey, my girlfriend's coming. And everybody else is like, fuck, his girlfriend's coming. Celestina is like, okay, everybody, please leave, except for Hunt. Hunt, stay back. I want to talk to you. The goss in this scene is hot. So turns out Celestina confides in Hunt that she was actually Shahar's friend. She was very close to Shahar, and so she just wanted to tell Hunt, like, I'm really sorry, and also thanks for killing Sandriel, because best believe I've wanted to for a long time. And Hunt is floored because that's not something archangels are supposed to say. You're not supposed to want to kill your kind. She's like, listen, I'm on your side. I know that you don't trust me, but like, I tried to buy you. Like, literally, when you were with Sandriel, I tried to buy you like 3 times and the Asteri kept saying no. I'd do anything for you because I was so close to Shahar and I know that Shahar cared for you. I've got your back, even if you don't trust me. And Hunt is like, listen, I've also got your back. If you need something, you let me know. No, I don't really trust you, but also, like, I'm a good dude, so, like, come to me and let's see how this relationship goes. Therion is still using Ethan. Ethan, again, is not really allowed to, like, be wandering about by himself. Therion just, like, takes him on field trips. And he's like, hey, we've got a crime scene today, and I could use your nose. So he brings Ethan to the scene of this Selkie that was killed. And Ethan goes around and is like, with his wolfy nose, and he smells 2 humans. And so what Ethan thinks is that the Selkie found Emil in the marsh, helped Emil, and then Pippa found the Selkie and tortured it to death in order to get information about Emil. That's what they think. End scene. God. Bryce and Ruhn are walking around. They have a really cute bonding scene. Like I said, pretty much every scene that Ruhn is in, I like in some way just because I like Ruhn. And Bryce says, like, I just don't think you know how special you are, Ruhn. And it's heartwarming and it's sweet. She is like not answering her mom's phone calls ever since the whole like, you're engaged thing. Instead, they decide to communicate via postcard. Because that's what they do when they're angry at each other. Anyway, we're explaining this, we're learning this whole thing, and then a reaper from the bone quarter, remember those guys? A reaper just like snatches Ruhn and takes him down into the sewer. Bryce obviously follows them down. There's like 5 reapers down there, and they're holding Ruhn. They've like made him unconscious somehow, and they've got like a gun to his head or something. So they're like using him as like collateral so that they can talk to Bryce. And what they tell Bryce is that Apollyon, the Prince of the Pit, sent them. And once again is like, I'm ready to go. Now. I want a war now. Why the fuck aren't you working on your powers? I'm getting angry. He's like the head of a group project and nobody's doing their part, you know? And he's like, I'm sending reapers after you, okay? Meanwhile, in Ruhn's head, Ruhn is unconscious. All of a sudden he hears, wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up. Daybright, somehow, even without their crystal communication thing, Daybright felt that he was in trouble and just like snapped into his brain. So now they're like connected mentally all the time.
The pods are officially open.
So Daybright feels that he's in danger. And so she's up there in his brain like, Night, wake up. I think you need to wake up. So that's a cute little interesting thing that happened. Cormac pops out of nowhere. They start like, Bryce starts desperately trying to fight the Reapers, whatever, with her like blinding light and all this stuff. Cormac shows up, grabs Bryce and Ruhn, and we learned something real cool about him. Homeboy can teleport. End of part 1. I am exhausted. I'm going to take a break. My voice is gone. See you in part 2. We're back. Continuity be damned. I got a haircut. Okay. Part 2, The Abyss. We're going to leave teleporting Cormac for a second and we're going to head over to Therion. He, like in passing, had this run-in with the River Queen's daughter and mentioned like he could take her on a date above. If she ever wanted to meet any of his friends. And apparently the River Queen got really angry about this and just yelled at him a bunch. And we get some more info about like the Ocean Queen and how now apparently like all of the water queens, because like every river has a queen, every ocean has a queen, all of the water queens probably also want Emil. So she's like, just once again, find him immediately, and also as punishment for asking my daughter out on a date even though she's your fiance. And also he didn't really want to be engaged to her, he just wanted to bang her and leave her, but because she's a princess he had to get engaged and then he got stuck and he's been engaged to her for 10 years. Anyway, as punishment for that, he has to go clean the dirty part of the river. And as he's like picking up trash, he's kind of like, man, hierarchy sucks. I don't like the monarchy. Because remember, he doesn't really care about the rebellion. He's a little selfish. But now he's kind of like, you know, I don't like having this weird hierarchy. So, breakthrough moment for Therion. We come back to Cormac. Bryce is immediately like, you got to teach me how to do that. And he's like, yeah, okay, sure. And then she calls Jessica because we are at another point in the story where impossible things need to happen. And so she just gives Jessica a call and is like, hey, can I have 2 tickets to the Bone Quarter, please? Because to get to the Bone Quarter when you're alive, you need to have like a token. And Jessica seems to have an unlimited supply. So she's like, Jessica, hook me up with a couple tickets. Bryce wants to go there because those Reapers that attacked them, she wants to go and ask the Underking if he sent them or if Apollyon sent them. Like she thinks that they're lying. She doesn't believe that the Prince of the Pit sent Reapers when like the Underking owns the Reapers, right? So anyway, that's why she wants to go. But Jessica is like, oh really? You aren't going there to find out about Danica? And Bryce is like, Jessica, what are you talking about? She's like, I don't know. I just wondered when you'd get curious about why she was always lurking around the gallery. And Bryce was kind of like, because she wanted to visit me at work. And Jessica was like, yeah, sure. We're back at Bryce's house. Declan, my computer fairy, is combing through some security footage. Ethan is trying desperately to help. isn't doing that well. Bryce suddenly is like, I gotta go to the gym. She's like, I gotta burn off steam. I'm gonna go to the gym. It took Hunt all of 30 seconds to decide. He ducked into his room saying he was going to change for the gym. When Ruhn was alone with Deck and Ethan, his beer half finished, Ethan said, Connor would have picked the game. They're watching the Sunball game on TV. Ruhn raised an eyebrow. I didn't realize it was a competition between them. Ethan just typed away, eyes darting over the screen. And for some reason, Ruhn dared to ask, who would you have picked? Ethan didn't hesitate. Bryce. Oh my God. Hunt goes to join Bryce in the gym and he walks out of the apartment and she's like leaning on the door and she's like, it took you long enough, because they aren't going to the gym, right? Bryce always has like a different agenda. They are going to the meat market. They are meeting with Fury and Juniper. And she's like, if Emil is anywhere in the city, he's going to be in the meat market. So let's split up, see if we can learn anything, see if we can find him. They fail. Nothing, nada. We don't get anything. We learn that Juniper's brother joined the Viper Queen to become a fighter, and that seems insignificant, but probably in like many, many books from now it will be. So I'm just going to tell you that now. Bryce and Hunt do actually go back to the gym. This is where we learned that Bryce exercises to very sad, somber music. Probably like Bon Iver or something like that. And Hunt listens to historical audiobooks. He's a nonfiction bae. They get a very steamy scene in which we learn that Hunt's lightning isn't just for fighting people. And they exchange I love yous. And Shahar never said that to Hunt. I just don't like, I'm not liking Shahar. I hope that we get more of her backstory, because so far Sarah J Maas is just like making this woman unlikable. We're back in the pods with Ruhn and Daybright, who now no longer need to use the communication crystal because they're that connected. They end up talking about actual intel, like spies are supposed to. The Asteri are going to be sending like a bunch of weapons and this new technology on the spine, which is either a mountain range and or a train track. And so the rebels are supposed to use this information to then attack the train and stop the Asteri. What is in there is this like new suit, like this armor that's like super high tech, and we don't know much about it, but it's like really important that you get these suits. And Day is like, listen, I highly recommend that you just destroy everything. But Cormac has made it clear that him and Pippa are going to try and take some of those weapons, because why would you waste resources? So they're going to try and steal the weapons and the suits. Then they kind of start flirting. Daybright ends up like asking questions that leads Ruhn to kind of show a bit more of himself, as far as like she realizes that he must be high rank. He realized that she's probably from the House of Sky and Breath too, kind of thing. And then Daybright just like snaps and she's like, this isn't funny actually, because if people find out who you are, like you're being so lazy with this, you're gonna get hurt, I'm gonna get hurt, bye. And she just like dips. The steamy banter in this book, because they all talk like frat boys, is just so cringe. I absolutely hate like any scene, like especially Bryce and Hunt, like their steamy scenes literally turn me off. Like I flip through them. So if you want to hear about them, this is not the video for you, but there's some steam. And then we are going to head to the Bone Quarter. So they are about to get on the boat to cross the river to the Bone Quarter when Baxian shows up out of nowhere. He's basically like, you know that this is a really stupid idea, right? And Hunt is like, it's my day off, buddy. Leave me alone. And they get on the boat and leave. They get to the Bone Quarter and it is like empty. So it's supposed to be like the afterlife and paradise and like green grass and open fields, but it's just like this desolate, gross, misty place. And they can't find anyone. There's no sign of life. So Bryce finds this like what I can only describe as like a gong, and she just takes out her sword and just goes like bang, bang.
Okay, people look alive. Let's go. Come on, get up.
And summons whatever could possibly come out of the mist. Like we didn't really think this through. Luckily for them, the Underking does come out and he's pissed. He's like, you guys are alive. I only like dead people here. And you summoned me using like a dinner bell. Bryce asked the question, the reason why she's here. She's like, did you send those Reapers after us or did Apollyon? The Underking is quite pissed that he is being asked this. And he's also really pissed because Bryce insinuates that she may or may not have killed one of his Reapers. But he's basically like, no, I didn't send them. I guess Apollyon did. And this is where we get the explosive information that is going to be important for the rest of the book. And I'm not being sarcastic. This isn't an Otter or a Jelly Jubilee moment. This is actually very important. So pay attention. The Underking just suddenly starts to chat. He's got some tea. So what he tells us, Bryce is like looking around and she's like, there's no one around. Like, this looks like a really different version of what we've all been told about with the Bone Quarter. And the Underking is like, yeah, you get told a lot of lies just to comfort you. And Bryce is like, tell me more. Remember when they all make the drop? Any veneer has to donate their first light, which is like a chunk of their power, to the city, and it powers the city, and it's like this great thing. When everybody goes through the Bone Quarter, they're supposed to just live there for eternity. Turns out the Underking says they just stay there until everybody forgets them. Like until, you know, you're like great grandpa. You probably don't know him. So now that he's been forgotten, we take what is called second light. And so they actually zap the very last bit of their power. Remember how Danica existed and then she used that last bit of her power to push Bryce and now she like doesn't exist anymore? They do that on purpose. Like, there's no eternal life. They just like let you live for a couple more centuries maybe, and then they zap you and they take any last bit of your power. So they just basically drain you like an orange and you don't exist anymore. And Bryce is like, what? Enraged because nobody knows about this and like that would be nice to know. And Hunt is kind of like, I'm glad that we know this now, but also you definitely told us this information because you know that we aren't leaving the Bone Quarter alive. And the Underking is like, yeah, Hunt, smart guy. And the Underking releases his, what are they called? Shepherds. He has like a dog called a shepherd. And he's like, go fetch, shepherd. Half dead dog things start chasing Bryce and Hunt because they're not going to be allowed to leave the Bone Quarter alive with this very sensitive information. Back in the living world, Ruhn, Ethan, and Cormac are doing some rebel activity, and Cormac is like exchanging intel with a hooded figure in an alley. I don't know why Ruhn and Ethan had to come along, but they did. And this is when we come across Mordock. So I don't have any more pictures. I'm very sorry. I can't make my husband print any more out. But we have Mordock, and he is like this nasty king dreadwolf. Like, he's the top dreadwolf. He's a bad guy. So Mordock is in the city prowling around, and he just like stumbles upon them. He clearly just like is suspicious of these guys. And this is where we learn that he is Danica's father. And Danica is like, has never told anyone. She says that she doesn't have a father. And I wonder why. So Mordock starts creeping down the alley. Like I said, he's like, I can smell Faye. I can smell the coffee on your breath. So Cormac teleports Ethan out of there. And then he comes back and he grabs Ruhn at the very last second. Because Mordock is also a bloodhound, which is how Danica got her power, basically. And so Ruhn knows that if Mordock gets close enough, he's going to be able to be tracked anywhere. Like, once Mordock gets a smell of you, he will not let you go. So luckily Cormac was speedy, but it was a very close call, and Mordock like already suspects Ruhn. So ruh-roh, gotta find a meal ASAP. Ethan and Ruhn go to a bar in Fyro to just like chill out, and they're having like a kind of bro-y nice conversation. And who walks in but the Hind and the Harpy, who doesn't deserve a picture. I'm sorry. Back in the Bone Quarter, Bryce and Hunt are still fighting the dogs. They get separated, they get back together, they get separated, whatever. Hunt is looking nuts. He is so terrified for Bryce that he is getting really crazy. Like, his lightning, he's like buzzing. Like, Bryce has never seen him look like this before. And so he goes to shoot his lightning at one of the dogs, and Bryce is like, I'm gonna experiment, and she just like jumps in front of his lightning, harnesses it with the sword somehow, and is able to like be a conduit, basically like shoot his lightning. Things that we gather from this moment. First of all, Bryce is reckless as hell. Second of all, suddenly she's like, lightning, huh, what does that remind me of? Sophie and Emil. What if Hunt is also a Thunderbird? And second, maybe Apollyon did send the Reapers because he knew that Bryce would investigate and bring Hunt to the Bone Quarter, and they would be put in this horrible situation in which Hunt would discover this kind of new level of his power, and then they could discover what happens when they combine, which is what Apollyon said. Remember, he said that they were both conduits? So she's like, I think we were just set up, but let's not stay to find out. And they just like jump through the gate into the water. Luckily, we got a mermaid on the squad, so Therion is just somehow there waiting and picks him up. Like, the imagery is that they cross the river, they park the boat, and then they just keep running to Bryce's apartment. Like, they don't stop screaming until they get safely in Bryce's house. They get there, and what does Hunt do? How does this chapter end, you want to know? Hunt takes out his phone from his pocket and is like, wow, I'm really glad that Bryce convinced me to get the water resistant insurance on my new phone. We're back at the bar with Ethan, Ruhn, the Hind, and the Harpy. The Harpy is like hitting hard on Ethan, and he's like, I'm absolutely not interested. The Hind is clearly just trying to rile them up. Like, I don't really know again what this scene is about other than just like giving us a tiny piece of information. The Hind suddenly is like, so how does it feel that the girl that you have a crush on is dating Hunt? And Ruhn is like, excuse me, what? Years of pining in secret, years of guilt and shame for feeling what he does, for hating his brother whenever he talks about Miss Quinlan, for wishing he had been the one who met her first. Shut up, Ethan growled, rattling the glasses on the table. Pure feral wolf. But then Big Brother dies. Ethan paled, the Hind's expression filled with cool contempt. And he hates himself even more. Not for losing his brother, for not being there, but because of the one traitorous thought he had after learning the news, that the path to Bryce Quinlan was now cleared. Did I get that part right? Turns out, yes, Ethan was very, very, very in love with Bryce, and the Hind somehow knows that and tells them, and then beats them at poker, and then leaves. What are these scenes for, Sarah? Hunt is back at Angel headquarters because they're having like a first welcome dinner. It's not like the big mating ceremony, but it's like a little party for Celestina and Ephraim. And so all of the angels are there. And he has kind of a little one-on-one with Celestina. And he's basically like, I don't know why you aren't really happy about this, but like, it's clear that you aren't. So, you know, I'm there for you. If you need a reason to leave the party, just like tug on your ear, I'm here. Very sweet relationship moment. The party starts though, and about like an hour into it, he gets a text message from Bryce that's like, get over here now, or like emergency or something. Isaiah sees it like over his shoulder and he's like, bro, just go. Like, I'll cover for you. Just leave. As he's walking out, Celestina gives him like this disappointed look, I guess. Whatever, he's got to go get his girl. So the reason that Bryce texted him is because they're all like sitting at home. She is explaining the whole everything that they learned from the Underking, right? Ethan is having like a little mental breakdown because his brother is there still like waiting to be drained, basically. And as they're having this moment, Sabine just like barrels into her apartment and is like, you are harboring a criminal, you are hiding Ethan, and blah blah blah. Just what Ruhn, like exactly what Ruhn said, right? They start fighting. It's about to go down, and Ethan is really strong, but he's not strong enough to take Sabine yet, I suppose. So like, this is gonna end really badly. Before they get in a fight, him and Bryce try and team up and do this like mental chess with Sabine. They basically are like, it seems like you're really threatened by Ethan. Is Ethan gonna be alpha? Like blah blah. I don't know. They just like are kind of edging her on until finally Hunt arrives, and then Baxian arrives. Everybody knows where Bryce lives. It's so funny. Baxian followed Hunt because they're partners. And then Sabine is finally like, oh, okay, fine. I will leave. And she like storms out. And there we go. Sabine has like the weirdest role in this book. I swear to God. Hunt is like, why the hell did you follow me? Baxian is like, I'm your partner. We don't know where he stands. He's like, we don't really trust Baxian. We still aren't really sure if we trust Cormac. I mean, even Celestina, we don't really know. So like all the newbies were just kind of like, about. Ethan agrees to go live with the Fae, like Ruhn suggested, so he's going to move into the frat house. Ruhn has a little one-on-one meeting with Daybright where they don't have any intel. Ruhn just had a rough day, and Day is like, yeah, I had a rough day too. And they just like sit. There's a couch now. Did I tell you this? There's couches. And so they just like sit on the couch and talk about their feelings.
I'm really starting to emotionally connect with you.
Remember when I said that the otters were going to be a part of this? Ethan has a little run-in with the otters. He is waiting for Therion to come pick him up. He walks to the river, grabbing an iced coffee on his way, and he suppressed a smile as he handed over a silver mark to a whiskery otter whose name on the tag of his yellow vest said Fitzroy. And he sent Therion a message like, come pick me up. But yeah, so we have Fitzroy the otter. My camera freaked out, so I'm going to give you a couple little info dumps that you missed. While Ethan is waiting for Fitzroy to deliver his message to Therion, we learn about him and Bryce's relationship. So when they met, actually, Ethan was visiting Connor, who was in college. Ethan was not in college yet. Connor was like, when you're here, I really want you to meet this girl that I'm like totally in love with. I'm gonna marry her, blah, blah, blah. Ethan is excited. He goes to the dorms, and while he's looking for his brother's room, he meets this beautiful girl, and he's like, oh my God, I'm gonna marry her. I'm gonna have all of these wolf pups with her. I'm gonna become a professional sunball player. This is the life that I'm gonna live. I can't wait to find Connor and tell him that I also met the love of my life. When he finds Connor, he's still with this girl, and Connor's like, oh, you met Bryce. That's handy. And Ethan realizes that he just like love at first sight fell in love with the girl that his brother is in love with. So that sucks. He also chose to go to that college versus another college that was trying to get him to like play sunball. He went there to be with Bryce. So he like was really in love with her. And when Connor asked Bryce out, that was because Ethan finally confronted him and was basically like, either you do something about it or I'm going to do something about it. Like, I'm waiting too. So, you know, get on with it. And so Connor did ask Bryce. Bryce said yes. And then Connor died. And he feels really guilty about it. So that's the tea. I'll update you with more stuff in a second once my poor camera just overheated with Fitzroy. Fitzroy gets a name and the River Queen's daughter doesn't. Fitzroy. Come on. Okay, I apologize. I'm too lazy to set up my tripod again and film. Real quick, the things that you missed. Number one, Therion shows up, and the reason that Ethan called him is because he's like, I want you to take me to the Bone Quarter to see my brother. And Therion is just like, no. The best I can do for you is I'm going to bring you to a mystic, which we will find out what those are. In the meantime, Bryce is at dance class with Juniper, and I feel like I didn't mention this in the last video, but when all of that was going down at the very end of the book with getting people into the bomb shelters to hide from the demons, Juniper was having like a fundraiser with her ballet troupe. So she was with like a bunch of rich people and investors, and they wanted to close the doors early. Like, they didn't want to let anybody in. They just wanted to save themselves. And Juniper was like, you guys are monsters. We got to help people, blah, blah, blah. Those investors did not enjoy being called out on their selfishness. And so ever since then, they've really like snubbed her. Turns out they just named who would be the principal ballerina in their troupe, and it was like this total rookie when it obviously should have been Juniper. And Bryce was so upset about this. Juniper is just like, you know, whatever, you know, I did this to myself. So Juniper goes away, and Bryce gets on the phone, and she's like, hey, I want to talk to the head of the ballet troupe. This is Fae Princess Bryce Dannon speaking. Dannon is the Autumn King's last name. And I want to talk about Juniper. This matters, I promise. Next, we bounce over to Angel headquarters, where Celestina punishes Hunt. Remember how Hunt like left her at the party? Celestina was just kind of bummed, but like Ephraim, her mate guy, was kind of like, that just makes you look bad politically. Like, remember, because it was Hunt and Baxian both left. 2 of your 5 angels just like bailed on you. That makes you look like a really weak archangel. And so Celestina puts him on lockdown. He has to stay in the barracks for 2 weeks instead of at home with Bryce. And it really makes him sad because he wants to have sex with his girlfriend and he still hasn't. And we get many, many pages of him being upset about this. And then we go to the Mystics, where with Ethan and Therion, they bring along Bryce. Even though Bryce is going though, she's really like anti-Mystic. She's really upset about this. She's so mad that Therion even put this idea in Ethan's head. That what Mystics are, typically like if your family is really struggling, if you're poor, whatever, you or your family will like sell yourself to I guess they're like sorcerers. It's unclear. This guy is called the astronomer, and you give up your life, basically. You live in this semi-meditative state, floating in water with a little breathing respirator tube, and you are used as like a communication tool between different realms, and so usually you lose your mind because you go too far into the cosmos eventually. It's something that is like so random and not explained. I don't know who would use a mystic, you know, like it's just an odd thing to have. But anyway, they go into the astronomer's place. Bryce is extra pissed because upon entering, they see a bunch of lanterns. And wouldn't you know, looking closer, they're not lanterns. They're jars and jars and jars of living fire sprites. Just like there, being kept as little light sconces. So Bryce is unhappy, but my camera decided to wake up at this point, so I will let past me tell you what goes down at the Mystics. Ethan tells the astronomer his question, why he's here, and that would involve going through the bone gate mentally. Like the mystic will have to like go through I don't know how it works. But it's like dangerous. And so the astronomer is like, ooh, it's gonna be expensive and it's gonna be dangerous. You see what the mystics are going through. Like it looks really creepy. And so Ethan is sort of like, never mind, I would like to stop. And they end up not contacting the Underking or anybody in the Bone Quarter. They accidentally make a little phone call with a Prince of Hell. How does this always happen to Bryce? They end up talking to a prince whose name I forget, starts with a T, Theropolis or something. He's the prince of the ravine. He is like, why are you talking to me? Why are you waking me up? I'm a busy guy. And then he's like, but wait, who's asking? Who's with you? And the mystic is like a mer person, a wolf, and a human fae. And the prince of the ravine is like, I want to see them. And he like shakes up the mystic, and the mystic opens her eyes. And I don't know how that works, but somehow that means that there is a hologram of the Prince of the Ravine. He's like, why are you asking me about the Reapers? And Connor seems to still be in the Bone Quarter, so you can chill out. And I'm done with this conversation. And he ends up like using his powers to like leech the soul out of the mystic. Like, we don't know how the whole mystic thing works, so it's a very confusing scene. Basically, like, the mystic just starts to convulse, clearly dying. Their respirator fell out or something, so they're drowning. And so Ethan goes in and breaks the tank and saves them, but then the mystic is like, no, I want to go back. Like, they want to be in the water. It was just like a really terrifying scene, and they all just like run out screaming. And Bryce is like, did you agree that that's a bad idea? And she ends up somehow getting really pissed at Therion and just like screaming at him like, we're done. I don't want to talk to you anymore. This was your idea. You're like a piece of crap. But then the mood is broken when Mordock shows up. And so in order to escape Mordock, she just like grabs Ethan and Therion by the arms, and they just like exit. This whole part, this is like really, I swear to God, the mystic, the second they walked into the mystic is when I lost the plot of this book. So we're learning about this together all over again, okay? She cools down a little bit. Her and Therion kind of make up, and that's the end of the scene. There is a phone sex scene that I hated. And then we're back with Cormac, Ruhn, and Bryce doing Fae training. Teleportation class is interrupted by my boy Declan, who is always working so hard. Like, he just doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Remember when Jessica said that like kind of cryptic thing about why aren't you looking into why Danica was always looking at the gallery, that kind of thing. So Declan went through all of Jessica's security tapes, no understanding of how he got them, but he got them. And he found an instance where Bryce, Danica, and Lahaba, rest in peace, were in the gallery, like in the library section, and they were chatting, whatever. Danica was just like sitting in a chair lounging, and Bryce and Lahaba like went off to do work for like a second, like literally like a minute. The second that they are out of range, Danica like jumps up, and it looks like she had just kind of been like pretending to lounge, so, and like looking at where she was gonna pounce the second she had a chance. She runs to one of the shelves, grabs a book, starts flipping through it and taking a bunch of pictures with her phone. And as she's reading it, she does that thing where like she's like skimming, and then she finds what she's looking for, and she goes like, ah. And they can see that clearly on the tape. So they zoom in and they find what book she's looking at. And the book is called Wolves Through Time, a Lineage of Shifters. Bryce calls up Jessica and is like, hey Jessica, can I have that book? Do you have that book? And Jessica's like weirdly kind of angry with her and is like, you need to stop asking me favors and blah, 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 blah. And then she hangs up. But then 2 seconds later, she sends an otter with the book. So I don't know. They get to the page that Danica was looking at, and it looks like she was looking at family trees of wolves, and she was looking at her family tree. And in that book, the last entry was the prime's father. So I guess great-grandfather. Anyway, so they're like, well, guess we gotta go talk to the prime. So Ruhn makes some weird excuse to like call Sabine off somewhere so that she can go into the wolf area without being like killed. So she goes in and she starts talking to the prime. She's basically like, quick convo, hey prime. And remember, the prime likes Bryce. He considers Bryce a wolf. And she's like, do you know why Danica would be looking into your history? And he's like, no, we've like forgotten everything about our past, whatever. And she's like, okay, cool. Then I have to go because Sabine is going to be back any second. But then the prime says, you didn't ask why we've forgotten their names. We did unspeakable things during the first wars. We yielded our true nature. We lost sight of it and then lost it forever. We became what we are now. We say we are free wolves, yet we have the collar of the Asteri around our necks. Now we don't know how to get back to what we were, what we might have been. That's what my grandfather told me. What I told Sabine, though she didn't care to listen. What I told Danica. And then right before one of Sabine's little cronies comes in and attacks Bryce, she's like, by the way, do you know about Ethan? And the prime is like, what about Ethan? And she's like, Sabine kicked him out and like beat him up and he's living with Ruhn. Like he's not in the pack anymore. And the prime was like, that is valuable information that I'm glad you told me, and I'm kind of upset. And she just like pieces out. Her and Declan, who was like her bodyguard, they like run to the apartment. Turns out they weren't the only ones that just survived a wolf attack. Cormac had a weird run-in with Murdoch again, but he got intel from his little hooded spy in the alley. His intel is that the attack on that train, remember that Daybright and Ruhn were talking about? The attack happened, it was successful, but instead of listening to Daybright's plan of like just destroying everything, Cormac said that the rebels managed to steal the weapons and the suits. They're shipping that to this like these islands called the Corporal Islands, specifically a city named Yidra. And he's like, we gotta get those before Pippa does, because if Pippa gets her hands on those weapons, we're done. So they start to concoct a plan of a little island vacay to piss Pippa off. Bryce gets a call from Juniper. Juniper has been made principal ballerina, and Bryce is like, hey girl, that's really great. And Juniper's like, no, fuck you. She's really pissed because she's like, everybody knows that I didn't earn it. Everybody knows that I got the part because the Princess of Fae called in a favor. So she's really mad, and she's basically like, don't ever contact me again. So goodbye, Juniper, I guess. Then we're back at headquarters, and Bryce is talking to Celestina, and she's like, listen, it's the kind of like a holiday weekend, I guess. And she's like, I promised my mom that I would bring Hunt for a visit, and I really need to borrow him. Will you let me take Hunt? Because remember, he's still stuck there for 2 weeks at Angel headquarters. She's like, can I please borrow him just for a night? I promise he'll be back in the morning. Like, my mom is just gonna kill me if Hunt cancels, and I don't want to have to explain this to her. Celestina is actually like, you know what, you can just keep him. His thing is over. He's been brooding and he's moping around Angel headquarters, so like, please just take me out of my misery. Bryce is like, thanks. And she's also like, by the way, if you need girl talk, I'm here. And Celestina's like, thanks, I appreciate that. Of course, they're not going to the mom's house. Hunt is just coming with them to the islands, right? And this is where it gets a little confusing with the rebellion. There's the Ophian rebels, and within that group is Lightfall, run by Pippa, who are like the really radicalized ones. And then there is like Cormac and now his little group of Veneer, who are just like kind of on the rebel side, but definitely against the radical Pippa side. And then there's obviously the Asteri and like their group of like Pollux and the Hind and Mordok and everybody. Okay. Ethan then gets a phone call from the Prime. The Prime is basically like, listen, I've been watching you. I'm not going to lose another good wolf. I have always felt like you could be an alpha. Like, you have it in you. You just keep suppressing yourself to serve others. And the Prime is basically like, if you ever want to come back and be an alpha, I will give you your own pack. I don't know how that works. But he's basically like, I would do that for you. And Ethan is like, absolutely honored. But he's also like, even if I'm an alpha, I would still have to work under Sabine, who would probably become the Prime. And even if not, I would have to work under Amelie still. Like, the hierarchy would still be there. And I freaking hate these girls. But he puts that kind of in the back of his mind, and he's really like touched. He gets a little confidence boost that he needed. For some reason, this phone call prompts him to go back to the Mystic. This is like a kind of fuzzy plot point. Ethan's like motivations are very unclear, but he basically just like wants to double check on Connor. And so he gets there, the astronomer isn't there, but one of the mystics is like out of her tank because her tank hasn't been fixed yet. So the other two mystics are like floating away in their dream world, and she is like kind of returning to being a normal person. Ethan starts talking to her and she's like, listen, we did what we could. You'd better get out of here. If you want any more info, you should probably talk to a necromancer. And he's kind of like, okay, thanks. But then he looks again and he's like, you're a wolf. So one of the mystics is a wolf. And he's like, how the hell did you get in here? He's really upset because like wolves aren't supposed to be in cages. And so she's like, yeah, I've been in here for, I don't know how old I am, but I've been in here since I was little. My parents sold me. I don't know their names. I don't know my pack's name. I don't know my name. And he keeps pressing her like, why don't you come with me? Like, the astronomer's not here. Why don't you leave? And she's like, no, complications, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, well, I'm really angry about this. And in his anger, he just like grabs one of the jars on the astronomer's desk and like walks out. Why? We're back in the love pods. Ruhn and Daybright are talking about the plan to go to the island. And she's like, seems really concerned. She wants the name of the ship. She wants all of this information because she's like, I feel like it's a trap. I want to make sure you're okay. Like, she seems to be starting to care about Ruhn as a human, which is sweet. And then she just like gets sucked out of the pod, basically, the mind bridge. What happens next? Don't ask me questions. I don't know. But apparently Ruhn is able to sense from like the other side of her mind bridge that she was woken up, because they do this like while they're kind of in a sleeping state. She was woken up by someone in order to like have sex with them. And she's like not really enjoying it. It seems consensual, but not like happy. And he just like stands there, like, and on the other side of the door that's happening. And he's just like, after that, she comes back to the mind bridge. Ruhn is still just waiting there. I think he's like sitting on the couch now, just like twiddling his thumbs. And he's like, so turns out she does not like the person that she is with, but she has to for her safety or something like that. They start talking about feelings more. Ruhn basically like fully falls in love with her, I guess. They talk about how like he feels like he can only like be really real with her, and she's like, ditto, man. Oh my god.
There's something about your voice.
That's what everyone keeps telling me.
And then they just like fall asleep together on the couch. Like, they fall asleep within their sleep. Watch out, Ruhn. Dating double agents, man. Might come back to bite ya. Now they've all made it to the island. They are in Yidra, and Cormac has teleported everybody in, and that has taken a lot out of him and a lot out of everybody else. Like apparently Hunt and even Therion are like woozy and like throwing up because of teleportation. He teleports one last time to headquarters, and remember, they're trying to get there before Pippa so that they can talk to the rebels and say like, don't give Pippa the weapons. Cormac comes back and he's like, shit, we're too late. Pippa got there first, and the rebels have given her full power over the weapons, over the suits, blah, blah, blah. And so remember, Cormac is still Agent Silverbow. Where is he? Agent Silverbow. Like technically he works with Pippa. Like Pippa doesn't know, she suspects, but like she doesn't know that he's actively working against her. Silverbow brings all of his friends along and is like, these are my buddies and they're here to help you, even though they're Veneer and Pippa hates Veneer. I don't know. This is, like I said, after we go to the Mystics, the plot just like unravels. Hunt, during his time with Sandriel, I guess, is like really good at taking apart and putting back together technology. They're like, we brought this specialist, Hunt, to look at the suits and tell us about them. And to be fair, he does do a good job. So what we learn is that these body suits, they look like, the way they're described, it's more like a transformer kind of thing. These suits are made out of Gaussian stone, which is the thing that those bullets are made of that stops you from using your powers. But this stone, for some reason, actually does the opposite, and it absorbs power. It's just like a military suit, so like it can shoot stuff, and it's armor, and like it has missiles on it. I don't know. But what makes it really dangerous is that it pulls its power like literally from the ground. All of the first light that is like going through all of the underground wires to like power the city and stuff, it can just like walk on the ground and pick up all this energy, so it never needs to be charged. Hunt is like, these are deadly. I've never seen anything like it. We need to get rid of them. Pippa is like, no, because if the humans have this, it's finally an even playing field. And Hunt is like, no, we really need to get rid of these. They have a very heated conversation, and then she just like kills a bunch of Veneer. I don't know who these Veneer are, but there are like Veneer who have volunteered to help the rebels, and Pippa's just like, shoot them. And she kills 5 people. Then she leaves. Like, that was her big dramatic exit. Therion is like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to follow her and investigate her because I think she knows where Emil is. And Bryce is like, no, don't do it. I don't trust her. Just stay away. And Hunt and her share a look. And Hunt is like, she knows something. And Bryce notices that Hunt notices and kind of looks at him like, shut the fuck up. I'll tell you later. Bryce knows something. Bryce has a secret. Then they just decide, like, remember how I said that Hunt is like, we absolutely need to destroy these things? They just decide, like, without a real contingency plan. Bryce just kind of looks at Hunt and goes like, and then he just like explodes everything. He uses his lightning. He destroys all of the suits. He destroys all of the weapons. He destroys all of the trucks. Like, everything that Pippa got from that attack on the train is exploded. And they just start running. They're like, okay, this is where we leave. Of course, all of the rebels start shooting them. Cormac gets shot with a bullet, so he can't teleport, because they were like, Cormac, just teleport us out. Cormac can't teleport. Bryce never learned how to teleport, so they're just like sitting ducks on this island and they don't know how to leave. Bryce ends up using her light power to just blind everybody, and then they all run to the shore, somehow commandeer a boat, and they like go off on this boat. Remember when she like really got pissed at Therion going to the Mystic and was like, I'm done with you, I'm never gonna deal with you again? She does the same thing to Cormac. She's like, how can you even pretend to work with Pippa? Like, you're kind of on the rebels side, and like, look at what the rebels are doing. I'm done with this. I'm done with everything. Like, I'm not gonna look for Emil. I'm not gonna look into this Danica shit. I'm done with this life. And Hunt is like, thank God. We're only halfway through the book, so we know that that's not true. As they are on this boat that's going very slowly, Hunt looks out onto the cliffs that they're heading for and sees Baxian. Baxian is just everywhere. Baxian is like in his dog form, running on the beach. Hunt just kind of goes like, hey, and the dog goes like, woof, and points like there's danger. He goes like, ruff, and Hunt is like, oh no, let's turn the boat around. So they start heading in a completely other direction. That is when they see who Baxian was warning them about. And it, of course, is the Hind and the Harpy. And they're on like these little like jet skis. They all decide, because Cormac still can't teleport. When you get hit with a bullet, it goes into your body and then it like breaks apart until you get every last piece of that shrapnel out of your body. You can't use your powers. So he's like, I need to be operated on before I can teleport. And they're like, okay, we can't do that on this boat. I don't know the logic behind this, but they just like jump in the water. I think their boat blows up. I don't know. The Hind like pulls up on her jet ski and is like, I've finally found proof that you are a rebel, Hunt, and I'm gonna like hold this over you. And then she's like pulls out this weird little rock from her pocket and she's like, I buried Sophie with one of these too. And she just like, it's so stupid. And she like drops this like pebble into the water and it's supposed to be super dramatic and intimidating. And they're just like looking at each other like, ooh. And there's submarines, by the way, circling them. And then as they're doing this like standoff thing, they like suddenly are like, whoa. And another submarine kind of thing just like comes up and they're like on top of it. All the good guys. The Hind is still on her jet ski. This woman pops out of the little thing and is like, everybody in. And they're just like, okay. And they get in the submarine and it dives. And so now we're on a submarine. While this is all going down, Flynn, what the fuck does Flynn do, by the way? Like, Flynn, Declan, and Ethan are at the bro house. Ethan is like, hey guys, I stole this weird little lantern thing. What do I do? And they're like, wow, that is like really, really illegal. Why don't we open it up? Turns out that the thing that Ethan stole from the astronomer, there are 3 fire sprite. These are all like enslaved beings, 3 fire sprites, and then there's this other one that's just like a little ball of fire. So they're all held with these like little rings, and so he like pops open the 3 rings and the fire sprite are like, whoa, thanks. And then he goes to do the last one and they're like, don't do it. But of course he does. What comes out but a woman, a very naked woman who's like potentially on fire a little bit, and she is a dragon. All right, in case we didn't have everybody represented, we got dragons now. All right, back in the submarine that they just like jumped in, leap of faith kind of thing. Turns out it is a boat sent by the Ocean Queen. And the woman who was like, everybody in, that is Commander Sendez. So it's the Mer people, basically. But like not, Therian has never met them. They're like totally different. And he is getting his mind blown because of all of the technology that they have. Like the River Queen does not have this. He's like, how are we going to outrun these submarines that are chasing us? And she's like, oh, don't worry, we have camouflage. They basically, instead of relying on first light, they use like some very ancient ocean power, which I feel like is important. Ruhn is like sniffing Bryce and Hunt and is like, you guys smell like mates. That's sort of weird. And she's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we are, because Hunt is outside of his mind. During the whole like the Hind conversation where like Bryce was like very probably going to die, he goes into like full feral mode, like kind of like in the Bone Quarter, but worse. It seems like he's not even recognizing his friends. Like Ruhn is a potential threat if he gets too close to Bryce. Like he's ready to pop and we need to calm him down. We send Cormac off with a Mediwitch. We have like a biodome, which is like basically like a giant greenhouse. Why don't you go in there and have some private time? They do have their private time. We get like a full sex scene. And how do you think it ends? Oh my freaking God. Right when it's about to end, they like open their eyes and they're in a different place. Why? Because Bryce teleported. Somehow their moment loosened something in her brain and she teleported them accidentally. Thank God she didn't teleport them like to the bottom of the sea, because that's probable. But yeah, Bryce can teleport now, but maybe only when she's having sex. So wouldn't put it past Sarah J. Maas. Back at home with our boys and their dragon, we meet the triplet fire sprites who are super cute. The dragon, who we learn is named Ariadne. Her and Flynn have like weird ass sexual tension. and I hate it. But she's basically explaining that like they are slaves, you stole them, you are going to get in so much trouble. Ethan asks her like, hey, do you have intel about the wolf that lives there? I really want to free her. Ariadne is like, no can do. Don't free her. And the only thing I know about her is that she's really tough. Like she actually kind of fights against the astronomer. Basically, the astronomer is trying to break her and she hasn't been broken yet, but like, you aren't going to free her, little wolf. The guys are kind of like, but we freed you. Like, why can't you guys just fly away? And Ariadne is like, number one, I can't fly. When she is a slave, I guess, she like can't change to be a dragon. Like she can't morph. And number two, because of her tattoo, it's like a tracking device and he can find her anywhere. I guess we've got more roommates. Cormac is now out of surgery and he has heard about Bryce's little sexcaport and he's trying to figure out what it is. And he's kind of like, I think you guys somehow like combined your powers and worked together. Think back about what happened in the Bone Quarter. And Bryce is like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so Hunt is like, let me explain it in layman's terms. It's kind of like if you're in a video game and I'm like a magic token that can level you up. And Bryce is like, that's the dorkiest and sexiest thing I've ever heard you say. But our giggles are cut off very short when Commander Sendez walks in the room looking very sad. And she's like, hey, so while you were in surgery, you were like talking. And she's like, we heard you say Sophie Renast. And yeah, we have her body. So remember how Therion was like, she might still be alive. She is not. She did in fact die that day at the bottom of the ocean. So Cormac is like absolutely heartbroken. This is actually very sad. They go into the morgue, pull out her shelf, and there she is. We get like a lot of kind of crying Cormac, which is touching because we think of him as Howl and Sophie, right? But as they're all looking at Sophie's body, they kind of notice something weird, and it's in her arm. She has carved numbers. Like it clearly looks like she took a sharp object and did it herself while she was dying. And everyone's like, Cormac, do you know what those numbers mean? And they're like, no. And so now we have a mystery. What did Sophie carve into her arm? They all kind of fade away and we get a moment of Therion and Commander Sendez. So Therion is still asking a boatload. He's asking a ton of questions about the like Ocean Queen and her civilization. His whole thing with the rebellion is like, the rebellion is stupid because if we overthrow the Asteri, there's going to be a power vacuum. Who's going to take the Asteri's place? Probably somebody like the River Queen or the Autumn King, like these shitty rulers that we don't like anyway. So like, why are we even bothering? Commander Sendez is like, well, that's not how the Ocean Queen is. You know, she remembers a time before the Asteri because she's like super old. We had like free and fair elections, democracy, and like she would like that to return. And Therion is kind of like, that sounds too good to be true. I wish that were true, but I don't believe you. And then he asks what Sendez is going to do with Sophie's body. Could he take it to the River Queen to prove that like, okay, I haven't found a meal, but at least I found Sophie, right? And Commander Sendez is like, no. Sophie's body, we think that it belongs to Cormac, right? Like she doesn't have any kin other than like Emil, who is missing. And so like her lover should be able to decide what to do with her body, which like I kind of respect. And she's like, we absolutely are not going to give it to you to give to the River Queen because necromancers have the ability to reanimate bodies. So they couldn't bring Sophie back to life. Like her soul and her consciousness are absolutely gone. But theoretically, necromancers could reanimate her and use her powers. So she would just be this like ultimate weapon. She's a thunderbird that has no conscience. Sendez is like, absolutely not, sorry. And she also extends the invitation. She's like, listen, if you ever want to come work with us, go ahead. Like, you're very, very welcome. And he's like, thanks, I'll think about it. But he knows that because of the River Queen's daughter, he's like really tied to the River Court. So he's like, yeah, I could dream. Last scene of part 2. Ruhn is about to go to sleep when Day calls him and is like, hey, I heard about that attack on the base. I heard you were going to be there. Are you okay? Checking in. And we learn that Day really hates Pippa. And when Ruhn tells her that Sophie's death is confirmed, she's really sad. She's like, Sophie was just like, she had her head in the right place. Like, she was just a good person. And Ruhn is like, well, if you hate Pippa, why are you working with the rebels? And Day is basically like, listen, who else is doing it? Who else is fighting the Asteri? I'm willing to work with people who do horrible things. Like, I'm willing to pay that cost so that my children don't have to live under the Asteri. Which is when Cormac is like, oh, speaking of children, I think I'm infertile. Remember the oracle's prophecy about him, that the royal bloodline ends with him? He's like, yeah, I got this weird prophecy from the oracle saying that I was going to be the last of my family. So I'm either going to die before I can have kids, or I'm infertile. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm quote unquote shooting blanks, is what he says. He starts to like go off on this little rant about his father, and Day is like, you seem upset. Why don't I tell you a bedtime story? And so they end up going off on this story where it's like, there's a witch in a cottage, and then there's a prince that wanted to marry her, but she wanted to find her true love. But the prince wouldn't take no for an answer. So she runs into the forest that she loves and is like, protect me. And so the forest, like, what is it? The forest turns her into a deer, but then the prince has dogs chase her. And then the forest turns her into a fish, but then he built a trap. And so she became a bird and she flew, but then the prince used his arrows. And then she fell because she got hit by an arrow. And then when she hit the earth, the forest transformed her one last time. Ruhn fell asleep during this. Ruhn wakes up and Day is asleep on the couch. And he like creeps over to try and get like a looky-loo at her face, and she wakes up before he can see who she is, and she's like, how fucking dare you? Gets really, really mad. He's like, I just wanted to know how the story ended. I'm innocent. And she's like, well, the forest turned her into a monster and she ripped the prince to shreds. The end. And the end. I will continue the final part another day. But what are we doing now? We need to find out what is on Sophie's arm. We need to find out what Danica was researching with the wolves. Got dragons to deal with. We've still got the question of like, what's up with these people who seem like they're on our side but aren't. We've got a lot to deal with. Emila's still missing. God damn it. All right. See you in part 3. Part 3. The Pit. I don't know why I suddenly feel so nervous filming this. This is like senior year. This is like my last part of the book. This is the part where you really see the evidence of Bryce doing stuff off of the page. Remember how I said in the beginning, like I felt like she was not really present in this book? This, like part 3 is where we really see her like knowing things and doing things that we as the reader, like we kind of in the first book, we really felt like we were there with her with like 99% of the stuff except for the twist at the end. But this one, she just like does a lot of stuff behind our backs, behind Hunt's back, as we will see. So if at any moment you are like, huh? I didn't know that. That's the point. None of us did. We start off back at the house. Declan, of course, is working his butt off trying to figure out what the numbers mean on Sophie's arm. We also learn that the action that happened on the ship between them, it was life-altering and soul-altering, and in their words, they are dying to schedule round 2. But that kind of sexy talk stops when Baxian walks in, and he just like once again is like, haven't I proven to you yet that I'm on your side? Like I warned you about the Hind was chasing you on the boat. I haven't squealed, blah blah blah. Like I want in on whatever you're doing. I want in. Hunt and Bryce are still like, no, we don't trust you. And so he goes away. This is when Hunt finally corners Bryce and is like, so when are you going to tell me about Emil? Because remember how Hunt kind of like understood that she had a secret and she was kind of like, I'll tell you later, shut up kind of thing. It's later. And it turns out that Hunt actually kind of figured out what happened, but he's like, there's no way. There's no way. We go to the meat market to see the Viper Queen. Why? because the Viper Queen has Emil, and Bryce knew this. Hunt ends up getting really angry about this for multiple reasons, and I think they're all valid. Number one is just that Bryce didn't tell him about this plan, because she actively went to the Viper Queen and was like, I know that you have people everywhere. If anyone's going to find this kid, it's going to be the Viper Queen. So do whatever it takes to find Emil. So he's like, you couldn't have told me that, you know? I thought we were a team. He's really, he feels really upset that like they weren't a team on this. But the thing that also really bothers him is that the Viper Queen killed a lot of people. Remember how like Therion and Ethan were looking into that Selkie that died and they thought Pippa was torturing all of these people who were like helping Emil? That all along was the Viper Queen. Hunt was like, are you okay with that? Like, the Viper Queen killed people because of a thing that you asked her to do. And Bryce was like, which I don't believe her for 1 second, but she's basically like, I told her to do anything necessary to find the kid, but I didn't think that she would kill people. But like, why would you think that the Viper Queen wouldn't kill people? Like, I feel like that's very much her MO. But anyway, they get into quite a fight about it, and actually at the end of the argument, Bryce is actually more upset at Hunt than Hunt is. Like, Hunt gets it. Hunt is like, I'm mad for those 2 reasons that I just said, but also like, I'm so proud of you for saving Emil, and I'll get into what happens to him in a second. But for some reason, Bryce is just really angry that Hunt was angry, and so they end up like parting on bad ways. They're both like, I gotta go to work, and they part. Where is Emil? They go to the Viper Queen. They're like, where is Emil? They find him. They sit down and they have a chat. Hunt is like trying to give Emil a pep talk about like he shouldn't feel guilty that like people died because of him and his power. And Emil is like, what power? And it turns out Sophie just lied. Sophie knew that if he was just a normal human, the rebels wouldn't have cared so much for him. So she lied and said that he had like greater power than her, when in reality he has 0 power. Zilch. Which Bryce inferred and was correct. Turns out what she's gonna do with little Emil, she calls up Fury. Fury's got a car. Hunt and Fury have a very long chat about how many snacks are necessary for Emil on this long car ride. Hunt is pro snacks. Emil is going to live with his newly adopted parents, Bryce's parents. He is now Ember and Randall's adoptive son, and now his name is Cooper, I think is his name. Remember when I said that her mom and her were like exchanging postcards because that's how they communicate when they're angry at each other? They haven't been talking on the phone. I don't know why they couldn't do this via phone call, but yeah, they arranged it. He is fully adopted. No one's gonna know, other than Hunt and Fury. No one's gonna know shit. So just like that, the main thing that we've been doing in this book has been tied up. So good job, Bryce, I guess. But yeah, both of these guys go off in a huff, angry at each other. As Bryce is walking to work though, she gets a phone call from Ruhn, and he is like, get to the house ASAP. So she goes over to the bro house, and this is when she meets Ariadne and the fire sprites. Ariadne, by the way, still refuses to wear clothes. So we learn a few things. Number one, Bryce is like, why can't we just buy you guys? Like, we're a prince and a princess of Fae. Like, I think we can afford you. And Ariadne says that I cost more than a prince and a princess can afford. I was a gift to the astronomer from an archangel. Again, this is all, I'm sure, going to come into play in book 3. Doesn't matter now, but hey. We also bring up Lahaba because we're talking to fire sprites. And Lahaba in the first book had always said that she was a descendant of Queen Ranthia Drawl, Queen of the Embers. Apparently they're super rare. And so the fire sprites are like, oh my gosh, Bryce, you should totally talk to our queen, Irthis, I think. But the catch is you can't really talk to Queen Irthis because she was like sold to an Asteri. Again, I feel like this is all going to come to play. This is why I'm telling it to you. We're all going to forget it by the time that we read the 3rd book, but we can pretend. And then she calls Jessica to be like, is there anything that we can do about Ariadne and the astronomer? Jessica is like, I've heard of the astronomer. I'll get back to you. And this is where we learn that dragon fire is one of the few substances proven to harm the princes of hell. It can even burn the prince of the pit. Save that little nugget for whenever that happens. Then we go to Angel headquarters with Hunt, and he sees the Hind, and he's like, hey girl, we saw you on that jet ski. When are you gonna turn us in? And she's just like, I'm enjoying watching you squirm. Speaking of squirm, why don't you go see what the harpy did down at the Angel Gate? And so Hunt goes down to the Angel Gate, which is one of the gates in the city, right? And apparently the harpy found 2 rebels, not Pippa, but like 2 rebels. And she did something called a bloody eagle, I think it's called, where she like opened their back, ripped out their rib cages so that they're sticking out of their backs like wings, and just like left them there for the public to see as like a warning. And Hunt is disturbed for many reasons. Number one, that's pretty disturbing. Number 2, he's like, if we get caught, like if him and Bryce specifically get caught being like with the rebels, they're not just gonna get killed, they're gonna get tortured. And number 3, right before he saw the Hind, he had just had like a cute conversation with Celestina, like, oh, how was it going to go see the parents? So they had like a cute little convo. But Celestina's the archangel. She knew that the harpy did this and was okay with it. And for her to just act like nothing was wrong, he is disgusted and like feels really betrayed. So trouble in paradise, I think. We catch up with Therion for a second. Therion relays all the information about Commander Sendez and the Ocean Queen and her big ass ships. And the River Queen is like really pissed off about this. She's like, my sister doesn't share with me, like I should have access to those ships and all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Same deal. Hey, Therion, keep looking for Emil, right? He goes up out of the water and he runs into Hunt. But before we can have this conversation, we need to zap over to Ruhn and the boys. He is at his house with the bros and now the gals, and he gets a knock, knock, knock on the door. Who is it? His beautiful fiance, Hypaxia. We get literally 2 full pages of Ruhn especially, but also all the other guys, incapable of functioning because of how beautiful Hypaxia is. So Hypaxia is like, hi Ruhn, can I ask for a favor? And he's like, yeah, sure. Because remember, like, it's super complicated. I feel like Ruhn just like doesn't get over people. And so even though he knows that like she's not interested, he still is kind of crushing. He says it's respect, but really he's just like, wow, I wish she was into me. He's like, yeah, of course, Hypaxia, anything. What do you need? Remember way back, reach way back when Cormac was talking about how the witches don't really like Hypaxia to the point where they would almost prefer the Hind. We get a little more information about that. Hypaxia is like, it's not just dislike. At this point, it feels dangerous. And so for the mating party ceremony thing, she's like, I would really like it if I could have a bodyguard that's not a witch with me, because if her coven is here and the Hind is here, that's the perfect time to stage a coup, right? And overthrow Hypaxia. So she's like, it's not super weird if I ask my fiance to be like, to give me his royal guard, right? And Ruhn is like, yeah, sure. So like, I'll go with you, but also, how do you feel about Ethan? Because Ethan needs something to do. And Ethan is immediately on board because, do you remember why they don't like Hypaxia? Because she was trained by necromancers. And what did that mystic wolf tell him that he needed in order to contact Connor? A necromancer. So he's like, hey, I don't want to ask you too many favors. Yes, I'll be your bodyguard, but like, do you mind if you also help me contact my brother? And she's like, I could, but I could only do it on the autumnal equinox, which is when they're having their like mating party. So she's like, it'll be a busy night, but I'll do it. I'll try for you. And sorry, not only Ethan, but Ruhn is like, by the way, weirder request. Can I also add on one more guard? Long story, but we might have stolen an enslaved dragon. But there's a law that says if a royal needs a slave for a very good reason, we can take it without being like punished by the law. And so what better reason to steal a dragon than to have them guarding a queen. So like as long as Ariadne is guarding the queen because Ruhn asked Ariadne to, it's like okay that she was stolen. I don't know, but Hypaxia is like, sure. Back with Therion and Hunt. Hunt is like, I gotta talk to you. Don't look for Emil. And Therion is like, that has literally been my only job for the past 500 pages. What are you talking about? And Hunt is like, I can't tell you where he is, but he has been found and he doesn't have any powers. So he's basically just like, that's as much as I can say. I'm not going to tell you anymore, but like, stop looking for him. He's powerless. Just trust me on this. And he also is like, and there are a couple demons called Death Stalkers coming through. So warn your people about it. I'm kind of concerned. Just wanted to put that out there. And so Therion is like, okay, that's really frustrating, but who is to say that I need to tell the River Queen right now? Like, I could stretch this out for months. They end up agreeing to let Therion keep looking for Emil with knowing that he's never going to find anything. So he's kind of free from his job. Yay, Therion. Yay for free time. After that, Hunt goes to the Fae archives because he needs to do some research on those Death Stalkers that he told Therion about. But mainly, he wants to apologize to Bryce. He apologizes. She apologizes because she also recognizes that she overreacted to him being angry at her. All is forgiven, and then they have really cringe library sex. Chapter 53, read it for yourself. I'm not going into it. Another episode of Love is Blind. Day is talking to Ruhn. She's like, listen, Pippa is totally going to be planning something, some kind of retaliation for what you did. So just be ready. Pippa's probably going to attack Crescent City. No big deal. And then they have like their feelings chat again where he's like, I've told you things that nobody else knows. I feel like we can be real with each other. She's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then again, it ends with them getting angry at each other. And Day is like, we're getting too close. We're getting too attached. And like, if you're telling me things that nobody else knows, that's really dangerous. So you should stop. He says something along the lines of like, I don't care if I die because like I'm nothing. Or something, like I'm not anything of importance. And she just kind of doesn't answer. And before she can say anything, he like assumes that she agrees that he's worthless. And he's just like, okay, fine. And then he hangs up. It's getting a little toxic is what I'm going to say. And now we are seeing where all of these little details start to matter. Do you remember when Bryce made the phone call to get Juniper to be the principal dancer? And she said, hello, this is Princess Bryce Dannon, using the Autumn King's last name. Apparently that's all it takes for her to formally accept her role as Fae Princess. So she has always been Bryce Quinlan, Randall's last name, but because she used the Fae last name, she is now officially like responsible for princess duties. So the Autumn King comes into her work and is like, hey, you're a princess now. And he's like, also, I can smell the stink on you. You and Hunt are mates. And she's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And he's like, well, I can't do anything about it, but you are going to stay engaged to Cormac until I say so. And so she's like, well, that's kind of what we were doing anyway, so okay. And then as he's leaving, he looks at her desk and she has been kind of like just scribbling the numbers that Sophie had written down. And he kind of stops for a second and he's like, oh, you're looking into that too? And Bryce is like, looking into what? And he doesn't say specifically, but he's like, listen, if you're gonna mess with the Asteri, I just want you to know they're not going to come after Hunt. They're going to go straight to your parents and kill them. So like just, you're dealing with some deep shit, so be careful. Because I've looked into it too. I've spent my whole life looking into this. And Bryce is like, looking into what, Autumn King? And he just goes, the truth. She is very shaken by this whole thing. And so she needs girl talk, but she can't talk to Juniper and Fury's never around. Danica's dead. So she calls up, well, where are you? Hypaxia, not the Oracle. And is like, hey, do you want to get a drink? They go to the bar. Ethan tags along because he is her guard now. And they just have girl talk. She's basically like, oops, I'm a princess. I don't want to be royal. And Hypaxia is like, girl, I feel that. And so they just kind of talk about that. It ends up coming up that Hypaxia is very interested in why witches' powers are getting less and less and less. And remember, the Fae also, their powers are getting less and less and less. And she also says that her tutors, the necromancers, they were alive before the Asteri. So they like have told her things. She also knows about the bone quarter because she talks to dead people all the time, and so they tell her things. They start walking out of the bar, and then Ethan gets attacked by one of the Death Slayer demons. His throat gets ripped out. They run off. Hypaxia has like either a knife or a gun. Bryce has a knife, and she's like, listen, I can't explain it right now, but can you hit me with literally whatever power you have? Like, just hit me right in the chest with it. Go ahead. And so Hypaxia is like, okay. And she goes like, zoop, and like powers Bryce up. So it turns out, luckily for Hypaxia, Bryce doesn't need to have sex first. You can just like jolt her. Hits her with the power, and she manages to teleport right next to Ethan and is able to like fight off the demon. Hypaxia is like, hey, can I take Ethan back to my compound and fix him up? Goodbye. That was weird. That was nice girl talk until the end. So Hunt arrives on the scene. Hunt is obviously very happy that Bryce didn't die, but he's really confused because those Death Slayer demons, which by the way are like the pets of the Prince of the Pit. Those are like, they're really fast. They're really powerful. Hunt has a scar down his back from one of them. And the fact that Bryce and Hypaxia walked away without a scratch is weird. And so he's thinking that maybe the witches might have somehow summoned them and sent them after Hypaxia, which is why they like killed her guard first. I don't know, but something's fishy about this. Once again, we end up back with Ethan. He wakes up. He is feeling a little bit better, feeling very stupid because he failed his first guard duty. We also learned that while they were in the bar, he was like, hey, Ariadne, why don't you go sit up on the roof? And she just bailed. So we don't know where Ariadne is. And Ethan is kind of like, that was really unprofessional of her. And Hypaxia is like, well, she's a dragon. She should be free. So go, Hypaxia. Meanwhile, Flynn and Declan arrive, and they are like, hey, little pup. Literally, they call him Little Pup. They're like, hey, little pup, how are you doing? Are you gonna come home? And he realizes that they genuinely care about him. He's not just like, you know, helping them on this thing. They're like actually his friends, and they're actually his pack. Like, he feels like he has a pack again, which is the thing that he had been missing. It's cute. I hate Flynn, but like, I like the bromance, so I'm here for it. The bromansion grows, by the way, because Therion decides that he is going to live above in order to look for a meal better. I don't know. And so he is going to room with the boys. So now we have Therion living there. This totally wasn't touched upon in the first book, but apparently at the summit, Therion and Hypaxia had this like super bonding moment, and now they're like BFFs. She's like the only one who knows about his engagement to the River Queen's daughter. He calls her Pax. They're like really, really close, like buddies. I don't know. I feel like it will be important later. Hunt and Bryce have a moment where Bryce finally like actually breaks down and cries. She's so frustrated over the princess thing. She's like, this is the thing that I've avoided my whole life. I walked into this trap. I feel so stupid. Like, there's no way to get out of this. Like, there's no way to renounce your title. And she even asked Hypaxia, and Hypaxia was like, the only people who could do that are the Asteri. But then she has a light bulb moment, and Hunt is like, tell me that look means that you came up with some brilliant yet painless way out of this. And she kisses him softly and says, you're not gonna like it. We're back in the pods, and Day and Ruhn apologize to each other, and he ends up saying like, you know what, you're my friend, and friends accept apologies, but like, I like my apologies in the form of a beer. And so Day is like, then I'll buy you a beer. And he's like, okay, when are we gonna meet? Like, he called her bluff. And she kind of hesitates, but then she's like, I'm actually gonna be in Crescent City for the whole like mating party. Do you want to meet? And Ruhn is like, absolutely yes, at the fountain at midnight. And she's like, we really shouldn't do this. He's like, no, it's a date. And there's like this like weird tension, and then they part. So we're finally going to find out who Day is. Oh, and how they're going to know is that he is going to say day and she is going to have to answer night. Foolproof plan, right? 2 weeks later, we're at the ball, we're at the mating thing. We figure out what Bryce's plan is that Hunt isn't gonna like. Bryce and Hunt walk into the ball arm in arm. The Autumn King is about to like run up to them and they swerve, and instead they walk straight up to Celestina. Celestina and Ephraim are sitting on like a throne because they're the guests of honor, and Bryce is like, "Hi Celestina, I would like to introduce you to my mate, Hunt." And Celestina is like, "Oh, that's really great that you've mated. I give you my blessing and I congratulate you." And everyone is like, "Ooh," because what just happened? The Archangel just blessed their union. How can she still be engaged to Cormac? And so the Autumn King is like, blub, 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 blub. And Bryce is like, "Dad, you didn't tell them that we broke up the engagement?" And so the Autumn King is either going to call his daughter a liar in front of the Archangel, which would just be embarrassing to him, or he's just gonna suck it up. And so he sucks it up and he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to say anything about that." He is real pissed and storms off. Cormac is also mad because remember, they had a deal that like they were going to mutually call it off, like they were going to communicate about that, but now they are happy and in love and blessed and they get to dance the night away. Hypaxia, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Hypaxia actually has never met the Hind. Even though they're half sisters, they've always lived apart and she's much younger. So she finally to Ruhn is like, "Will you back me up if I go talk to the Hind right now?" And he's like, "Yeah girl, I'm here for ya." So they walk up to the Hind. She introduces herself. The Hind is like very cold, but at the same time, they both dismiss. Like the Hind tells Pollux to like go away. And then Hypaxia doesn't ask Ruhn to, but Ruhn kind of fades because it's almost midnight and he has to go meet Day. So they have like a private sister talk that we never hear about. Ruhn goes to the fountain. It's almost midnight. Who does he see waiting at the fountain? The harpy. He is like, "Oh, fuck no." And he goes up to her and he's like, "Day?" And she's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So he scurries away because he's like, there's no way the Day is going to come out while the harpy is here. And as he's ascending the steps, also the Hind is there just like staring, like looking all suspicious. And so he's like, yeah, no, the harpy and the Hind being there, no way. No way the Day's gonna come. And so he never gets to see his Love is Blind girl, unfortunately. Then we get to some real juicy stuff. Bryce and Hunt are looking for a private place to do some private things. They go down the hallway, they find a bathroom where they're like, perfect. It's locked. So Hunt is like, "Look at this." And he knocks down the door, being like a macho man. And who is in there already hooking up? Hypaxia and Celestina. Did I mention that Hypaxia said that she had like a love that she couldn't be with, and Celestina also maybe mentioned that? I don't know if I did, but anyway, they have like a forbidden love. Celestina is like, she starts doing the Hunt thing where she gets like all glowy and buzzy and she's like protecting Hypaxia. Bryce and Hunt are immediately like, "We're not gonna say anything, like obviously not." And Hypaxia is sort of like, I believe them, like they have a good relationship. And so she's like, yeah, I'm like, this is awkward, but I don't feel threatened. But Celestina is still really like buzz. Eventually what settles Celestina down is Bryce is basically like, "Listen, I'm a princess, you're a queen, you're an archangel. We are women rulers in like a male dominated world. Of course we've got each other's backs. Like I considered you guys already, and I would love for you to continue to be my allies." And that seems to calm Celestina down enough that Bryce is comfortable leaving Hunt with her, and she basically takes Hypaxia and they walk off. Hunt and Celestina have a little conversation in which she basically gives this kind of monologue of like, she considers love to be a trap and she wishes so greatly every single day that she didn't love Hypaxia. After the ball, we get a Day and Ruhn moment where he's like, "I was waiting for you. I'm so sorry that it didn't work out." But she was like, "No, I saw the threat too. I was there. I saw the threat, so I didn't get close, but I saw you." And she like calls him Ruhn now. He's not knight anymore. And he's like, ooh, say my name again. And they have like this moment where he's like, if you're still in the city, like I'll meet you anywhere. And she's like, no. Once is enough. We're not going to try that again. And then she gets pulled away to have sex with this partner that she doesn't love, who like seems to like always wake her up for sex. But anyway, we have a very cringy sex scene that like was actually painful for me to read and I don't recommend. And then Bryce gets a little mental phone call from Apollyon because it's the autumnal equinox and so the veil is thin, so he's able to communicate with her. And he's like, I've already talked to Hunt. All right, I did that because his kind was bred to be receptive to us or something. Like that's why he could talk to Apollyon without like not on the thin veil day. I don't know. He talks to Bryce and he's basically like,
same thing that I already told Hunt. Get to working on those powers, girl, because I have an army that is ready to fight and I want to finish this war.
He also tells her, why did he fight Peleus? Because technically the Fae and Hell were kind of on the same side, fighting against the Asteri. Thea, Queen Thea, whose light she holds, was anti-Asteri, and she was rising up and she was with the princes of Hell doing that in the First War, which like the Asteri conveniently changed that history. Another part of that history that they didn't talk about is Thea's lover. Oh, yep. Adis and Thea, Prince of Hell, Queen of Fae, fell in love. That is why Apollyon risked everything to help Adis and help Queen Thea. And like, that's why he killed Peleus. Bryce is like, what? This cat loved my like great grandma? Like what? Apollyon wants her to use the horn again to bust open the rift and let the armies of hell come in. And she's like, let me think about that. That seems like a really big thing. And before he goes, he says that he didn't send those reapers. Remember the reapers that attacked Bryce and Ruhn said that they were sent from Apollyon? So the Underking didn't do it. Apollyon didn't do it. Who sent the reapers? Flash over to Hypaxia. Hypaxia keeps her promise to Ethan. Remember that she is going to try to contact Connor and then maybe send him to a peaceful place. She does this like star thing of candles and is like, whatever you see or hear, don't step outside of the circle, blah, blah, blah. They do the summoning thing. And who do they summon? The Underking. He somehow like felt her power and he was like, I'll take this phone call. He gets really pissed for like his world being messed with. He like somehow sets them up in this weird maze and they have to fight their way through the maze. And that's where we leave them. The next morning, we're back in the training ring. Cormac is still really pissed at Bryce and he's like, is there anything else that you aren't telling me? Like, I thought that we were a team. Can you please let me in on your plans? And she's like, no, that's it. Caught you all up. Sorry about that. And then he's like, I don't believe you. And he like puts a knife to her throat and he's like, you're gonna tell me everything that you know. And so she's finally like, okay. I found Emil. Don't ask me about him. He doesn't have any powers, but like you have completed your promise to Sophie. He's safe. What the hell were you gonna do with a 12-year-old boy? You're like a frat boy fairy prince. What are you gonna do with him? She's like, just trust me that he's safe. You did Sophie good. Are we cool? And he's like, okay, I guess we're cool. Who shows up at the training rink? Hypaxia and Ethan. They have not slept. They have spent up until that very second trying to escape the Underking's maze. They are bloody, they are tired, and Ethan is like, I will explain in a second, but the Underking says that you need to go to Urd's temple in 1 hour or he's gonna kill my brother in the packs of devils. Bryce and everybody head to Moonwood, the wolf territory, which is where Urd's temple is. And sitting at the throne is the Underking himself. Then we catch up with Therion. He is walking around the meat market. He hears people talking about a dragon that was fighting because the Viper Queen has like a fight club. I don't know if I mentioned that. So he's like, found Ariadne. So he goes to talk to the Viper Queen. And somehow that leads him to asking her about any intel she has on the rebels. And she's like, yeah, I got it. but like it's gonna cost you. And instead of money, because Ariadne is making so much money as a fighter, she's like, remember that thing that you did? Like Ruhn is using Ariadne as like a royal guard or whatever. Can you make that work for me? Like, can you talk to your lawyers and have like Ariadne royally working for me? And Therion is like, that just doesn't sound like it would work. And she's like, well, it doesn't sound like you want your information about the rebels. So Therion is like, okay, deal. Now tell me what Peppa is up to. And the Viper Queen pulled out her phone, checking the digital clock. Call your friends and find out. What? But the Viper Queen had already turned back to the hall, to the dragon. Therion dialed Hypaxia, Hunt, then Bryce, Ethan, Ruhn. No one answered. He didn't dare put it into a message, but he dialed Hunt again. Pick the fuck up, he murmured. Pick the fuck up. Flash to Erd's temple where everybody is. The Underking is like, hey girl, hey Bryce. Yeah, found out who called the Reapers. It wasn't me, wasn't Apollyon. It was the Asteri. And then they turn around and who is coming into the temple? But Pippa and all of the rebels. They are surrounded. So Bryce is like, honey, light me up. I'm gonna do one little jump. I'm pretty sure that she got Ruhn and Ethan out. I think that she teleported them out, and then she was like, I don't have enough juice to get you out, so like light me up and I'm gonna do one more thing. And she goes, we don't know where she went. She comes back and she's like sweating, but she's like, easy peasy, we got this. And then she starts bleeding profusely from her nose because her brain is melting from too much teleportation. At this point, Mordok and everybody else all shows up as well, and so they're just like extra fucked. But then Baxian shows up and somehow helps get them into this like hidden secret room. Where did Bryce go? Bryce teleported to one of the gates, her handy walkie-talkie gates, and she pressed it and was like, hello everybody. Oh, by the way, wait, before she pressed it, she used an app on her phone to change her voice. And she was like,
everybody, the rebels are at Erd's temple.
She knew that she would be getting like Mordok and the Hind and everybody at the temple, which was a risk she was willing to take in order to get them to fight the rebels. Now we get even more drama. So they're in there with Baxian in the secret room, and Bryce is finally like, she takes a gun and she just points it at Baxian and she's like, you confuse me. Who are you? Why are you helping us? I don't understand this whole thing. And he, instead of talking, just like goes like this and shows her a tattoo that is on him, and it's in familiar handwriting. Whose handwriting is it? Oh, it's painful for me to point. Yes, it says, through love all is possible. And do you want to know why? Because they were mates. I know. 2 years before she died, they like met each other. She was doing research into like, he has a very strange, the fact that he can shift into a dog apparently is weird. And so she was doing her like research into shifters. And so she wanted to talk to him. And when they spoke, they were just both like, ah, shit. Bryce recognizes that, oh yeah, she stopped having casual sex 2 years ago. Weird that like she knows exactly when she stopped having casual sex. But anyway, she became monogamous and he started to become a better person, allegedly. Like, that's when Hunt had already left Sandriel, and that's when he really started becoming good. And that's why, if you remember, when Sabine came to Bryce's house and like almost fought with Ethan, and she like wasn't gonna back down until Baxian showed up as backup, she dipped because she's scared of Baxian because he knows how shittily she treated his mate. And so at any point, he's always like, you know, I have every right to kill you, just so you know. He also says that he thinks that the whole synth thing was a cover. And Bryce is still pissed, like asking him a bunch of questions like, well, what's her favorite color? And what's blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, well, then what does this mean? And she shows him the numbers that were carved into Sophie. And Baxian is like, well, Sophie got those numbers from Danica. And Bryce is like, well, how do you know? And he's like, because I gave them to Danica. Those numbers are a room numbering system for the Asteri at the Eternal City. Sandriel was the Asteri's pet, Baxian turned to Hunt. You know that Athalar. She made me serve as escort on one of her visits to their palace. When they brought her down to the archives for a meeting, I saw them go through that door, the number door that's on Sophie. When Sandriel emerged, she was pale. It was odd enough that I memorized the series of numbers and letters and passed it to Danica later as something to just look into. Danica became obsessed with it. She wouldn't tell me why or what she thought might be in there, but she had theories, ones that she said would alter this very world. But she couldn't go in herself. She was too recognizable. She knew the Asteri were already watching her. That's why she got in touch with Sophie, and that's why Sophie, an unrecognizable person, was in charge of getting in that room. Totally cracked the case open. Here we go. My voice is absolutely gone, but we are so close to finishing this. This is when all the action happens. Buckle up. This is where I got completely lost. So hopefully me explaining it helps you understand, because I understand it now. Thank God. Well, I mean, to a point. Now that we know that those numbers are a room in the Eternal City, in the Asteri Palace. Who can solve this? The only guy who can, Declan. Declan looks into their security footage and he's like, okay, they have like a super amazing security system that I can't break into as far as like looking up maps of the place. And he like fanboys about the software, which is great for him. But then he's like, but I can get into all of their cameras. And so he combs through their cameras and they find the moment in which Sophie goes into that room. She walks in and 15 minutes later, sure enough, she walks out looking dead, like looking like her world just ended. So we know that like whatever's in that room is the information that she died for. She's like, get me in that room. And again, he couldn't get like a map. So Bryce is like, no, I got this. I know somebody who works there all the time. So she calls up our girl, Fury. Fury, to her credit, is like, this is an incredibly stupid idea and I don't want you to do it because you're gonna die, but I'll help you. And so she helps give like a mental map because Hunt has been there, but he's only been to the dungeons and that's a place that they don't want to end up. Fury gets us the maps. We start up a plan. Therion and Ethan have like a little bro conversation, and long story short, Therion is like, tie up any loose ends, bro. Like, we're probably gonna die doing this, so like if you want to have any last conversations with people, you should do that. And so the thing that Ethan is gonna tie up, his loose end, is that mystic wolf. Remember? He goes to see the Prime and he's basically like, listen, there is a wolf in the astronomer's place being used as a mystic, and I think she's an alpha and I want to get her out. Did I mention that? I feel like I didn't mention that. He thinks that she's an alpha, so he's like, I gotta get this wolf out. And Sabine is basically like, it's not our job, whatever. And the Prime is just kind of silent, and Ethan is like, well, I did everything I could. I told the Prime, so I feel good now. I can walk out of here. He leaves, and then the Prime shows up behind him and is like, can you tell me, did she smell like cedar and salt or something? Like really weird facts. And Ethan is like, yeah, how did you know? We've been looking for the lost Fender heir. There's another one. Sabine isn't the only heir to the throne of the Wolf Kingdom. And Ethan is like, oh shit. Basically, he just exposed probably the Fender heir, and Sabine would do anything to be sure that she's the only one, including killing this poor mystic wolf. So Ethan is like, I just made an uh-oh. Therion has this weird heated conversation with the river princess where he's like, I don't want to be engaged to you anymore. And she's like, I will not stand for this. Come to the blue court. And he's like, no, I'm gonna live above. I want my legs. She goes back down to go get her mom. And so he's like, I've got 30 minutes of freedom. What am I going to do? He runs to the Viper Queen and he sells himself to the Viper Queen. He's like, I will be your servant. I will be your fighter. If I swear myself to you, I no longer, like, the River Queen isn't going to come up here and mess with you. She's like, okay, but you're probably going to regret that. She makes him drink her blood, and then boom, he is officially Viper Queen property, which I feel like is gonna cause problems. Ethan, after recognizing his uh-oh, he's like, Hypaxia, I'm really sorry, but can you tell everybody that I can't go to the Eternal City with them because I have wolf stuff. Wolf stuff is basically he is going to sit outside the astronomer's house and guard it because he is sure that Sabine or Amelie or like one of her wolves is going to come kill his mystic wolf. And so he has to bail on all of his friends. The love pods, we're back in them. He talks to Day. She's like, we can't do this. I'm distracted. It's going to catch up on us. We're all gonna die, basically. And then she says that she lied about the ending of the story. Remember, she was like, and she ripped the prince to shreds, the end. She was transformed into a monster. She ripped the prince. Yeah, that's right. But one day, a warrior arrived in the forest, and he'd heard of a monster so vicious none could kill it and live. She set out to kill him, but when the warrior saw her, he was not afraid. He stared at her, and she at him, and he wept because he didn't see a thing of nightmares, but a creature of beauty. His love transformed her back into a witch, melting away all that she'd become, and they lived peacefully for all of their immortal lives. And he's like, I like that ending much better. And then they have mental sex.
Did we have a sex talk yet?
Oh my goodness. This is rated R now.
I don't know how it works, but somehow in the love pods, they do the deed. And then as they're laying there in the aftermath, Ruhn says like, by the way, I'm going to the Eternal City to go fuck with the Asteri. And she is like, don't do that. She's like, that is definitely a trap, blah, blah, blah. And then she starts like cutting out and she's like, the dungeons, and then she gets pulled away. Ruhn calls it emergency meeting with Bryce and Hunt. So the three of them are going to do this thing. They were all going to be together, safety in numbers, and they were just going to get in and get out. Ruhn, after this whole like, the dungeons, kind of thing, he is like, Day is in the dungeons at the Eternal City, and I've got to go save her. I guess you could infer that, but that's not where my brain leapt to. So they're all like, that's stupid, we should stick together. But also Bryce recognizes that like Ruhn is really, really interested in this girl. So she's like, I can't talk him out of it. Sure, okay, Ruhn, go do your thing, save your little Daybright. Here's the plan. They need a distraction. They have heard rumors that Pippa is going to attack the Asteri laboratory where they make all the weapons, but they just don't know when. So Cormac and Therion are gonna go to the laboratory, which is like 20 miles outside of the Eternal City, and like start doing stuff. Hopefully Pippa is like watching, and then she will come in to like protect the goods before Therion and Cormac blow it up. And so then the Asteri will see all of the rebels move in, and it'll be this huge distraction, right? So the Asteri will be focused on the laboratory instead of the like just the palace walls. And as an added bonus, once all the rebels and the Dreadwolves and the Asteri and everybody get there, they're just gonna blow the place up. Bryce has another little moment of weakness where she's like crying and she's like, you know, we were once just simple party girls. And then she calls Juniper to give her like this sad goodbye voicemail. Hunt does one last run to Angel headquarters to pick up a ton of weapons. As he's leaving, he sees Celestina and she's like, I'm your ally. And he's like, ditto, and bye. Everyone is in position. They are at the Eternal City. They call themselves Team Fuck You. Okay, so Team Fuck You is in position. Right before they're about to start everything, Ruhn is like, hey, once we get out of here, I just want you to know that you, Bryce, outrank the Autumn King in power. And I'm sick of Daddy, so once we're done, we're going to stage a coup, and you are going to become the Autumn Queen. And Bryce is like, I really, really, really don't want that, actually. Oh, and I feel like I missed this entire part where they've been making fun of Hunt for technically being a prince, by the way, because she's a princess and they're mates, so he's a prince. There was like a whole thing. But she's like, yeah, really don't want to be a queen. Cormac is like, I actually think it's a great idea. And she's like, let's shelve that. Put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that later if we survive. And here is where we learn everything. Ruhn runs off to find Day, I guess. And then Bryce goes into the room. And when she walks in there, she just sees a bunch of like pipes. And she's like, what the hell is this? And then she realizes those are power banks. And it's literally like labeled. Like one of the Asteri's names is Rigolis, and it literally, one of the pipes says like Rigolus power level, 65%. And it says like all the different Asteri, how much power they have. And she realizes that the first light that everybody donates, it doesn't just power the city, it powers the Asteri. The Asteri are harvesting their first light and their second light, that like final squeeze of the orange juice of their souls. That's how the Asteri are so powerful, is they steal power from everybody else. She is like, holy shit, if we just stop donating our first light, we can end the Asteri. And that's what Sophie found out. And that's like the world-ending, war-ending knowledge, right? So she's like, oh my God, okay, we've done what I came here to do. Let me get out of here. And she's running. And then she sees a bunch of bookshelves. And she's like, oh, books, let me read while I'm here. So she pulls up and she sees Dusk or something. Like, remember how there was Project Thur and Dusk's Truth were the emails between Sophie and Danica? She sees Dusk on the shelf and she's like, oh, bingo, gotta read that book. And so she goes and checks it out. What is in the book is arguably more mind-blowing than figuring out the stuff about First Light. They are a bunch of different maps of the solar system, and it's like an Excel spreadsheet of how and when they conquered each world and like if they lost it or not. Like, for example, one of them, it said like, the citizens learned of our methods too quickly. We lost many to their united front, so we evacuated it. But for Midgard, this is what they wrote. The Asteri had lured them, like the Fae, the Shifters, the Mer, everybody, had lured them all into this world from other planets. Somehow, using the northern and southern rifts, or whatever way they traveled between worlds, they'd drawn them into this place to farm them, to feed off of them forever. And the bigger twist is that they tried to conquer Hell. They saw through our lures. Once warring factions, the royal armies of Hell united and marched against us. We were overwhelmed and abandoned their world. But they gave chase. They learned from our captured lieutenants how to slip between the cracks in the realms. They found us on Midgard, tried to convince our lured prey of what we were, and some fell to their charms. Thea, remember, Queen Thea joined the Hell people. We lost a third of our meals to them. War lasted until they were defeated and sent back to Hell. Far too dangerous to allow them access to this world again, though they might try. They developed attachments to the Midgard colonists. And then she's like frantically looking through the book, trying to figure out, okay, but where did the Asteri actually come from? Like, where is their home planet? And she's literally like, where the fuck did you come from? And behind her, Rigolus, who is at 65% power right now, he's like, you will not find it. We don't even remember where we came from. Meanwhile, Therion, Cormac are doing what they promised to do. All of a sudden, when the rebels arrive, Cormac just starts shooting them. And Therion is like, he's gone rogue. We promised we weren't going to kill too many people, even though they were going to blow up the lab. Then Pippa shows up. Pippa shoots Cormac with a bullet. Cormac is like, run, Therion, run. Therion does run. He turns around and he sees Cormac get shot again. He's clearly going to die. And then Cormac bursts into flames. The flames take Pippa. Pippa bursts into flames. And then he just blows everything up. Therion is far enough away at this point, and he realizes that Cormac hadn't gone rogue. Cormac knew that he was going to die. Cormac went into this mission knowing that he wasn't going to walk away. He was going to sacrifice himself. Rest in peace, Cormac. Cormac, Pippa? I mean, who knows? So while Bryce has just gotten caught, Ruhn is running around trying to find Day, and he also gets caught by Mordock. Rigolus is like, you can't blame us if our source of nutrition is inconvenient for you, which I think is really funny. When they were using the horn, Prince Peleus, when he like closed off the princes of Hell, he didn't just close off Hell, he closed everybody in. So now the Asteri can't travel to other worlds and keep conquering. So they're like, Bryce, hey girl, we'd really like you to use that horn to open the rift again. And we also learn that the shifters, like wolves and Baxian and Juniper and everybody, they were actually Fae. But then like because of the Asteri rule or something, they like completely changed. I don't know. It wasn't explained that well, but I guess like Danica kind of figured that out when she was doing her research. She realized that like we all came from different planets and we're originally Fae. And it like led her to this whole, the Asteri are conquerors, and that is why she needed to be killed. It was the Asteri that put it in Mika's brain to use the horn or whatever, like whatever the fuck Mika's plan was, the Asteri were the ones who kind of pushed him in that direction. So they might not have directly killed Danica, but they were the ones who kind of pushed Mika to do it. So now Bryce is like, "Ooh, buddy, you're really on my shit list, top of the list." In fact, she runs only to get down to the hallway where she sees Hunt in handcuffs. And then she gets handcuffed and the harpy is there. And there are 30 more pages of this book. Let me take a second. This is so sad. This is like the end of an era. I almost don't want to finish this. What if I just like didn't tell you the ending? Wouldn't that be so fun? No, I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to myself. Ruhn, Bryce, and Hunt are in the dungeon. Mordok is there and he's like sniffing at Hunt and he's like, "You smell funny. You don't smell like any other angel I've ever smelled before." And then the harpy cuts in and she's like, "I want to torture them before the Hind gets here because the Hind always like takes away my fun." And so she starts cutting open Ruhn's throat. And then she gets hit by something blonde. And the Hind just like barrels into her, pushes her away, blah, blah, blah. And Ruhn couldn't move from the floor as the Hind unsheathed her own slim blade, as her beckoning scent floated to him, a scent that was somehow entwined with his own. "I knew it. I always knew it," the harpy seethed, wings rustling. "You traitorous bitch. It couldn't be." Ruhn whispered, "Day." Lydia looked over her shoulder, and she said with a quiet calm in her voice he knew like his own heartbeat, a voice that he had never once heard her use as the Hind, "Night." Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. The Hind, Lydia, is Daybright. She kills the harpy, which is why the harpy doesn't even get a picture. She's just like discarded. She starts to get them out of handcuffs. She explains that she didn't mean to kill Sophie. It's a long story. It doesn't matter at this point. She was also the one that called Commander Sendez to come save them. She tries to explain more when Pollux appears. So Pollux is the asshole that keeps waking her up for sex. The Hind whispers to Bryce, she's like, "We gotta make this look real." And then they just start like attacking each other. And finally, like once Pollux pulls them apart, you see the Hind like whisper something to Bryce. And then they get like all re-handcuffed and everything. She brings them up to the throne room. They are riding in the elevator. Hunt notices that Bryce's handcuffs aren't actually handcuffed. The Hind didn't lock them again. The Hind is trying to communicate with Ruhn via their like mental thing. And he is just blacking her out, which I feel like it's like not the time, but he's like super in shock that he is in love with the Hind. Bryce and Hunt look at each other, but Bryce doesn't say anything, just held his hand for the last time. He realized as the elevator shot up through the Crystal Palace, he was holding his mate's hand for the last time. They get to the throne room. There's a gate there, like a portal. Bryce just starts shouting everything that she learned. Just so like everybody else knows. She's like, "I learned that the Asteri are from another planet. They steal our first light. They're blah, 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 blah." So now everybody knows. Good for Bryce. And this is where the plot, I mean, the plot is already fuzzy, but this is where it gets fuzzier. Apparently, the Asteri wanted to find a way to get Bryce to the palace. They didn't invite her because she probably wouldn't be walking out alive. All right. So they wanted her to come without anybody noticing. They wanted to use the horn to like open the realms again. And how are they going to get her there? They were the ones who pushed her towards starting this whole investigation, which I feel like isn't a super strong, like I feel like she would have gone on this path anyway, but they like sped her up. How did they do that? Rigolis pretended to be Adis. So that Adis that we met when Ethan was like petting him, that was Rigolis. But so Rigolis knows that Cormac was Silverboat? Like, I don't know. But anyway, apparently this was all planned by the Asteri to get her here. She fell into their trap. Also, Celestina called them and told them that she saw Hunt leaving with a bunch of weapons from the Angel headquarters. So, like, she tipped them off that today was going to be the day. That's shady. And what they want Bryce to do is, not only does she have the horn, but she has that like star thing. Their enemy number one are the like original Fae, because they defeated the Asteri a long time ago or something. So they want her to open the portals, and then somehow she would be like, the portal would open to the Fae so that they could come through and like fight the Fae. I don't know. So anyway, whatever they're asking her to do, she's like, fine, I'll do it. But you have to let Ruhn and Hunt go free and unharmed forever. And Regulus is like, sure. Say your goodbyes. And so she says a bunch of mushy goodbyes. I'm not going to read it because honestly, I get choked up. It's embarrassing, but like I always, yeah, it gets me. Apparently Hunt also whispers something to Bryce and we don't know what that is, but I don't think it matters. It's like the end of Lost in Translation, right? It's better that we don't know. She says her goodbyes to Ruhn out loud. And then she starts to mind speak. It turns out that the Hind had also not only unlocked her chains, but had given her like a little thingy to unlock Ruhn and Hunt's. So she unlocked both of them, and he's like, did you do it? And she said, yeah. And then he said, good. I told Athalar the signal. Are you ready? No. Ruhn pressed his brow against hers. We need armies, Bryce. You need to go to Hell through that gate and bring Hell's armies back with you to fight these bastards. Long live the Queen. That's the signal. Bryce runs to the gate. Ruhn and Hunt rush at the Asteri and fight them. Baxian is fighting Pollux and Mordok. The Hind is unconscious and just like on the ground. Bryce jumps through the gate. Regulus is like, no. And she's on her way to Hell, baby. To raise some hellish armies is her plan. Meanwhile, everybody goes back to the dungeon. Hunt gets another angel slave tattoo, but I feel like it's different somehow. It's stronger. I don't know, but he's in a lot of pain and he blacks out. And apparently Bryce could kind of like feel that as she's going through her portal. She's like, ouch, my mate. Okay. Everyone take a deep breath. This is where I absolutely wanted to throw my book out the window. I'm so sorry that my voice is gone, but I'm going to press through because this is the ending. This is what you've all been waiting for. If you skipped here on the timestamp, how dare you? This has taken up like a month of my life. Do me a favor, at least like this video or comment the pods are now open down below. Please give me something. We're doing this. This is what everybody wants to read this book for. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Bryce lands in Hell, except Hell has grass and is quite pretty, actually. And she's looking around and she sees this hot, angry dude with scarred hands and demon wings. And he's like, or something, speaking a language that she doesn't know. She's like, I've got to see Adis. Where's Adis? Take me to Adis. And he's like, girl, I do not speak that language. He blindfolds her and then flies her off somewhere. They end up in a hella fancy house and she's just screaming Adis at this point, and he's staring at her in silence like, did I just bring a wild animal into my house? Like, and she is like, what circle of hell is this? And he recognizes the word hell and he's like, hell? Then a shit ton of people walk into, not a shit, like a small group of people walk into the house. One of them looks like Fury, except a little bit smaller. And Mini Fury looks at Bryce and is like, and then everyone else in the group goes, because apparently Mini Fury doesn't get shocked by anything. Like she doesn't gasp. And so they gasped at her You get it? Okay. The female, Mini Fury, eyed the star sword. She looked at the first winged male, Bryce's captor, nodded to the dark-hilted knife at his side. The male drew it, and Bryce flinched. The knife could have been the twin to the star sword, black-hilted and bladed. It was its twin. The star sword began to hum within its sheath. So you remember like a long time ago, maybe in the first book, it was explained that the star sword is just a normal sword until it has its twin, the knife. Found the twin. She tries speaking Old Fae, and she's again like, is this hell? Seems like it. None of these people speak my language. And Mini Fury is like, no one has spoken that language in this world for 15,000 years. Then enter two more people. And Bryce is like, Ruhn? Because apparently the guy who walks in looks like Ruhn, except he's more tan. She tries explaining again. She's like, Midgard is in danger. And the girl who walked in with tan Ruhn asks Minnie Fury to translate and ask Bryce, what is her name? And so she says, my name is Bryce Quinlan. The male stepped forward, tucking in his wings. He smiled slightly and said in the old language, in a voice like glorious night, hello, Bryce Quinlan. My name is Rhysand. Let me just get the epilogue through real quick. Ethan is waiting outside, guarding the mystic wolf. Flynn calls. Declan watched everything go down on the security cameras. Cormac is dead. Ruhn and Hunter prisoners. Bryce went to another world. They're like, listen, Wolf, you're one of us now, so get over here. Get back to the frat house. We need to plan, which makes me feel better because if Declan is still there, he'll figure something out, right? The world is not going to end while Declan lives. And so instead of just leaving the mystic where she is, because he has already had to scare Amelie away once trying to kill this thing, he runs in and he's like, hello, I am taking you whether you want to or not. And she opens her eyes. That's the book. That's the goddamn book. I can't speak anymore. This is becoming ASMR. That's the end, guys. That is the end. Book number 3 is probably going to take place at the night court. And I can't. Literally, I was so done with this book that I read that last part very quickly and kind of not really even paying attention. So I didn't pick up on all those cues. Like the Minnie Fury is... oh God, what's her name? You know who it is, right? So I didn't get any of those hints until he said Rhysand, and then I was just like, fuck this. Also, I never read all of Throne of Glass, and what I did read, I completely forgot. But apparently the Fenders are mentioned in that book, as well as there is a part where the main girl apparently also like passes through Lunathion. The worlds are all connected. Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and now Crescent City are all tied together. And I will not be reading Throne of Glass. I've already tried. I'm sorry. It's just not my cup of tea. If this is going to become like a 900 book series, I refuse. That is it. That is how this ends. That is why I made this video, because of that damn word, Rhysand. And I gotta go. My husband has been texting me for the past like 30 minutes and I haven't looked at my phone because I just wanted to finish this. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here with me. I can finally take this down, except for Declan, who's staying up forever. Even though this caused me so much pain and like literal physical pain, this was so much fun. And your comments and everything have just been so funny and giving me life. So thank you so much. I don't know when I will ever do this again, but I had a really great time. And thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you think. Man, I will see you guys when I see ya. Love you so much. Okay? Bye.